Good evening. I call this meeting of the Greenbelt City Council to order. Madam Clerk, can you call the roll, please?
Good evening. Ms. Niesel?
Here.
Ms. McKinney?
Here.
Ms. Pompey?
Here.
Ms. Pope?
Here.
Mr. Roberts? Ms. Weaver?
Here.
Mayor Jordan?
I'm here. Please join us in a moment of silent reflection as we think about several Greenbelt residents and former residents and others that have passed away since the last council meeting. Those would include Romel Sabante Sandoval, former resident and Windsor Green President Derek Thompson, and also Crystal Whitaker, who's a longtime employee at the Greenbelt Post Office. Let's pause for a moment of silent reflection. Thank you so much. Let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Councilmember Pompey, would you like to recite the Greenbelt Pledge?
Yes. The strength of Greenbelt is diverse people living together in a spirit of cooperation. We celebrate all people by sharing together. All are enriched. We strive to be respectful, welcoming community that is open, accessible, safe, and fair.
Thank you so much. So tonight, it's a council meeting. We hold council meetings twice a month, except for August and December. On Mondays, several times, we have work sessions during the week on Wednesdays or Mondays. We set policy and take formal actions at council meetings, and our meetings are always open to the public except for the executive sessions as authorized by the state law so that residents and others can observe council's deliberations. We do strive to provide a reasonable opportunity for the public to weigh in on issues, and we'll pause periodically. So during these times, if you wish to comment or address council, you should raise your hand if you're in the room, and after being recognized, you can go to the podium or to the other microphone, and you'll need to state your name and where you live for the minutes. If you are tuned in on Zoom, you can use the Q&A tab to submit a written question, or you can raise your virtual hand, and once again, we'll recognize you and raise you up so that you can speak. And if you are watching on cable TV or on Facebook or where else do we stream? YouTube, live stream, yeah. Our website, of course. You can send us an email. The email you should send it to is questions@greenbeltmd.gov. So and we're about to do petitions and requests, which is an item on each agenda, council meeting agenda, where you can speak up to 5 minutes on one topic related, or just one topic. And we ask that you avoid questioning the motives of others, and in general, please be civil in your remarks. So at this time, let us pause and ask the question, are there any petitions or requests? Mr. Hartman, I think you had your hand up first. It was close, but Mr. Hartman. Please.
Hello, my name is Regina Smith, and I live at the corner of Crescent Road and Garden Way. First of all, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to present my petition for speed humps at that intersection. The intersection at Crescent Road and Garden Way is one of the busiest for citizens to cross to get to the bank, the co-op, the theater, restaurants, or just taking a walk. Safety is our number one priority, and speed humps are desperately needed to protect anyone of any age crossing the street. That includes the students who are coming from school as well on a daily basis. The problem is that drivers are impatient, some speeding, and are not giving pedestrians the right-of-way to cross that intersection. Some of the oncoming cars do a rolling stop or drive by you so close, not waiting for you to get on the opposite side, opposite curb side. I like to call my friend Joan. She lives 4 apartment buildings down from me, and she can testify to that traffic there at that intersection.
Hi, as Regina said, my name is Joan Estenson, and I live at Crescent and Garden Way as well. Generally, I try and take the underpass beneath Crescent, but there are times, if I'm taking an eastbound bus, if I'm going for a haircut, or occasionally to go to the co-op, it just makes more sense to cross Crescent. I travel at several speeds depending upon how things are going that day, but all of them are slow. And particularly in the western crosswalk where there is an inadvertent pedestrian speed hump, I have to go even slower. So I'm not able to run or jump if there's a car, and most of them are pretty polite, the drivers, but I can't run or jump out of the way for a speeding car. And after making sure that they stop, and sometimes it's hard to tell, I often offer them the right of way, waving them across, just so I have a clear path and I know that I can cross safely. And with that, I'll turn it back to Regina.
Thank you. We definitely need some kind of traffic calming at that intersection. I propose we install speed humps for the growing traffic on that route arriving at that intersection, for those who refuse to obey the mandated speed limits and stop sign. We are open to other alternatives for traffic calming, such as installing a stoplight where citizens can push a button before walking across the street that will make oncoming traffic fully stop. Please do not let us wait to act until it is too late. Let not a hazard such as a hit and run that could result in death come about before we make these changes. Last but not least, I have a list of people who have signed up for speed bumps. I have 11 so far, and some of the comments I'll only read 3. Please have speed bumps on Crescent Road. The one is yes for our safety, and the one that you just mentioned, I sometimes let cars go first because I don't trust them. Today, as a matter of fact, I was crossing that intersection and I stepped off the curb and the car stopped, and I was walking across the street and he sped right by me. They don't even stop. So thank you so much, and I hope you will consider this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If I could just ask one quick question. You mentioned an inadvertent pedestrian bump. Did you mean the curb, or what? Could you describe that for us quickly?
In the middle of the crosswalk, there is a spot where it's a little bit higher, like a speed hump would be, and I have to remember to watch for that. If you walk on the edges of the crosswalk, it's okay, but in the middle, there's that hump.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
John, what side of the street is that on?
You said the western side,
Western side of Western Crosswalk.
the side with the McCarl's dentist office. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm thinking Crescent. Yes. Okay. So on the side with the gas station, or the western side? Okay, got it. Thank you very much. And Mr. Hartman.
Michael Hartman, 2 Clark Garden Way. First, I'd like to associate myself with the comments of Regina and Joan. I live in that same area, and I agree that the traffic needs to be calmed, and especially because sometimes, people will say use the underpass, but the hill on the is so steep that it's almost impossible to use that unless you're young and vibrant. Second of all, I'd like to congratulate Chris Cherry and Stephen Broad for the youth musical of this weekend. It was like terrific. It was as if it was written this week, but it was written several years ago, but it was very, very relevant to what we're experiencing now. The third thing is on Channel 21, the stationary postings, some of them are very out of date, going back to 2024, and if you could look at that, that would be great. They have new stuff and old stuff on the
Is
Channel
that
21.
Comcast or Verizon?
Verizon, sorry. Okay. What I'd like to do, as some of you may know, a couple of years ago, some time ago, when the council was deciding on the standard order for the agenda, originally petitions and requests was after the agenda was voted or voted for approval. I suggested that the petitions and requests be before the agenda was approved, and this is one reason why I did that, why I made that suggestion, which you accepted. Thank you. Item number 23 is a discussion about the fireworks. It's on the consent agenda, and I'm requesting that it be removed from the consent agenda so that some discussion can ensue about it. And if you decide not to do that, then I'd like to make some remarks now, so I have a chance to remark on it. But I'll wait if it becomes a standard agenda item. So
Thank you. Yes,
I
it's not
know you
supposed to be
can't
questions
answer
and
me
answers,
now.
but I was going to do that anyhow.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Then I'll withhold my comments until the appropriate time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Mr. Orleans?
New Orleans resident. I've been whining for some months now about a decision made and an action taken by council in closed session in the fall of 2023, I think it was. Voting to provide a bonus for the then interim city manager. And I've been continually asking council and city management under what authority, what enabling statute allows council to appropriate city money in closed session. And while there have been attempts to answer that question by different parties from city management in the year and a half since I first raised it, most recently I was given a copy by our current city manager of an excerpt of the Open Meetings Compliance Board, thinking that would satisfy me. And I'm just here tonight to suggest that it does not satisfy me. It does not answer the question. One, it dealt with other subject matters, but it does not answer the question which I continue to ask: under what authority, enabling statute, or whim of any source does Greenbelt Council think it can appropriate money for any purpose in closed session? I still await the answer to that question.
Okay, thank you so much. So with petitions and requests, the city clerk has a log. She records each petition and request that is brought up. And the city administration has a responsibility to follow up and provide a response from the city to the extent that that satisfies the person who makes the inquiry. That's not always the case, but it's our policy. There's another person online who has a petition. Is that correct?
Yes, Ms. Rosenthal.
Oh, okay. Ms. Rosenthal, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, welcome.
Yes, good morning, good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. It's good to see all of you. I'm not able to be there tonight. I'm about to have to start work right now. But I wanted to actually expand on something that Mr. Hartman said. I didn't know he was going to bring it up, but I spent about about 20 minutes watching on Verizon, waiting for the council meeting to start. And so basically on the left-hand side, there was a repetition of a August 2024 Arts Advisory Council meeting and one other meeting, and it just went over and over and over again. Obviously, those meetings are past. On the right-hand side, some of the things were, for example, there's a support group that you contact S. Johnson. I don't even know if S. Johnson still works for the city of Greenbelt. There were lots of COVID resources, and there was the virtual recreation department, which again was a COVID program where you could do all of your like exercising online. And then finally, it mentions that you can call the city on the TTY, teletypewriter machine. No one has used a teletypewriter machine for at least 15 years. So I would suggest that on that slide with the phone numbers that you remove that. So basically, I really appreciate that, I guess it's, is it Gate that is broadcasting prior to the city council meeting? I'm not really sure who does that, but obviously it's greatly out of date. It had St. Hugh's on there and the hours. I don't know if those are the actual hours that they're open now or if that was like the COVID hours. So thank you, but I'm sorry I can't stay for the rest of the meeting.
Okay, well, thank you so much. Once again, we make note of every single petition and request that goes forward, and city administration does respond. Occasionally takes some research to formulate a good response, but we do our best. So, Ms. Rosenthal, thank you so much. And if there are no further petitions and requests, I would suggest I'm actually going to move forward in the agenda to the next item, which would be approval of the consent agenda. And I'm going to go ahead and pull item number 23 off of the consent agenda and move it. I guess that'll be item number 17. Is that correct, Mayor Pro Tem?
Was it 23 or 22?
22. Oh, man, these contact lenses are blurry. Are there any additional modifications? Yes, please.
I'd like to remove item number 20 from the consent agenda. There's just some additional information that just came from the committee chair that I think council needs to review. So if we could move that off of the consent agenda and put it back on at a later time.
Yeah, so we're not really removing it from the consent agenda, but removing it from the agenda entirely for later action.
Correct.
Okay. Is there any discussion? And if there's no discussion, could I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended?
I move to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Good, I'm going to need a second.
Second.
Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that motion passes. And that's going to bring us to the agenda. So if there are no modifications, could I please have a motion to adopt the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Councilmember Pompey is seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That does pass. Well, thank you so much. Hey, we've got a couple of presentations next, and I'm going to actually invite Ethan Sweet, who is liaison to Congressman Glenn Ivey, and he had requested, Congressman Ivey had requested that we provide it with a update on some of the things going on there in Capitol Hill and right here in the district.
Absolutely.
So, Ethan, you certainly are no stranger to Greenbelt. It's great to have a former Greenbelt resident.
Yes.
Okay.
Welcome. So I do want to say happy birthday, Councilmember McKinney. I believe we share a birthday. So yeah. Anyway, that's my little bit of personal thing. So hello, everyone. For those that are watching who may not know me, my name is Ethan Sweep. I'm a community liaison and grants manager with the Office of Congressman Glenn Ivey. The congressman wanted to have me here tonight to give you an update from our office, as well as some general remarks that he has. So I'm going to go ahead and just read what we have prepared. So to say that these are unprecedented times is probably an understatement. Like many of you, Congressman Ivey is deeply concerned by the rash of unchecked executive actions by President Trump and his unelected billionaire bureaucrat buddy, Elon Musk. These extreme actions have gutted diversity programs, threatened thousands of federal jobs, stopped critical foreign aid that helps keep our country safe, and frozen federal dollars for critical and life-saving programs, all within a matter of weeks. The arbitrary decisions of the Trump administration have no clear goals, do not bring down costs for the American people, and threaten to invade other nations, including our allies. This does not keep the American people safe, and the firing of civil servants does not make our government run more efficiently. The American people elected a government to help make their lives better, and as such, Congressman Ivey supports efforts to make the government more efficient, lower the cost of food and medication, implement sensible immigration reform, and keep the American public safe from threats at home and abroad, and his House Democratic colleagues are supporting many similar efforts. Instead of addressing the real and complicated issues of hardworking Americans, Trump and his unelected sidekick, Elon Musk, are focused on the needs of billionaires and lining their own pockets. So how do we continue to fight back? By leaning on the two co-equal branches of our federal government. Congressman Ivey supports efforts by unions representing federal employees to push back in the courts against illegal, arbitrary, and discriminatory firings. Many federal employees have civil service protections or collectively bargain for rights that protect them from removal based on political retaliation. Our courts must step in to ensure that these rights are not trampled upon. Additionally, Congress must stand up to tyranny. While Congressman Ivey's Republican colleagues appear to have developed amnesia on the role of Congress, he would like to remind them that the founders made Congress the Article I branch of our federal government for a reason. Congress makes the laws, and Congress appropriates federal dollars. Congress is an equal partner with the White House in governing our nation, not a junior partner. We must not be afraid to exert our powers to protect working people and their families from a president that is acting outside of his authority. Please know that you have a fighter in Congressman Ivey as we press forward through difficult times. He will not stand idly by as Trump and Musk, whichever of them is really in charge, destroy our federal government and the work of generations of Americans to make our country a more perfect union. If you or someone you know has been affected by the policies put into place by the Trump administration, please have them visit our website, ivy.house.gov, to find resources for federal workers, immigrant families, and members of the LGBTQIA+ community. The resource page is located under Services and then Resources for Maryland's affected by Trump administration policies. If you are unable to find the information you need, please call our office and our staff would be more than happy to assist you. Additionally, Congressman Ivey would like to remind you, and this is going back into regular business now, about our office's congressional nominations to the military service academies. So members of Congress may nominate candidates for appointment to 4 of the 5 U.S. service academies: the U.S. Military Academy in West Point, the Naval Academy in Annapolis, the Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs, and the U.S. Merchant Marine Academy in Kings Point, New York. The 5th Service Academy, the U.S. Coast Guard Academy in New London, Connecticut, does not require a congressional nomination for appointment. Congressman Ivey may nominate between 10 to 15 individuals for each vacant academy slot that's been allotted to our district, but we want people to understand that receiving a congressional nomination does not guarantee admissions into the academies. However, it is a requirement to be considered for appointment as part of each Service Academy's admissions process, with, of course, the exception of the U.S. Coast Guard Academy. For more information on Military Service Academy nominations, please visit our website, and under Services, you will find Military Service Academy information with all of the details as well as the application. Next, each spring, members of the U.S. House of Representatives sponsor a nationwide high school art contest. The Artistic Discovery Competition is an opportunity to encourage artistic talent across the nation, including right here in Maryland's 4th Congressional District. The Artistic Discovery Competition is open to all high school students. Winners from each district will have their work displayed in the U.S. Capitol building for 1 year, as well as featured on the House of Representatives website. The contest rules, release form, and previous winning entries are available on the Congressional Art Competition webpage, www.congressionalinstitute.org, and then click on the Congressional Art Competition header. Students who are interested in submitting their entries can do so on our website under Services and click on Art Competition. You must include both the student information form and completed release form with your entry. The deadline to apply is April 11th, 2025 at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Next, our office is excited to announce that we are currently accepting applications for our summer internship program in Congressman Ivey's district office. This is a great opportunity for students and recent graduates to gain valuable hands-on experience in public service, community outreach, casework assistance, and special projects alongside our team. Ideal candidates are enthusiastic, detail-oriented, and have an interest in public service, and also live in Maryland's 4th Congressional District. The internship will run from June to August, and selected interns will be working out of our district office in Landover, Maryland. All applicants must be above the age of 18 and have a high school diploma. So if you or someone you know is interested, please visit our website under Services again. It will be under internships, and on that page, you will find the application to fill out. Finally, I would like to talk to you all about the Community Project Funding Grant Program. For those who don't know what this is a grant program where members of Congress can submit projects to the House Appropriations Committee for 501c3 nonprofits and local governments that are in Maryland's 4th Congressional District. The program was started a couple of years ago, and it has been a great way for us to provide funding for projects that help residents of our district. Our office has started accepting applications for the fiscal year 2026 CPFs while we wait on guidance from the House Appropriations Committee. If you are looking for guidance to help lead you, as in years past, our best guess as to what the process will look like is probably similar to what it was last year in FY25, and those guidelines can be found on the Appropriations Committee website, appropriations.house.gov. Applications for our appropriations requests can be found on our website under Services, and then Appropriations Requests. Please make sure that your applications are completely filled out when you submit them, and feel free to reach out to our office with any questions. We would ask that for CPFs, you reach out to the district office. For programmatic and language requests, we would ask that you reach out to the DC office, since those are where the knowledge bases lie. The deadline for applications is March 31st, 2025 at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. If you are one of the 15 projects that was selected for the FY25 CPF program, unfortunately, I don't have an update for you as to whether or not these projects will be included in the final FY25 funding package. They were not included in the CR that was passed out of the House yesterday. Things are kind of changing every hour, so the script is a little out of date. But if you have additional questions about these requests, please reach out to me and we can have a discussion about, what we're looking at going forward, since I know Greenbelt was one of the projects that we selected last year. Last thing, I'd be remiss if I don't mention that we're having a town hall next Tuesday, March 18th. You get the information from 6:30 to 7:30. That is going to be at Suitland High School Auditorium. You can find more information on that on our website, ivy.house.gov. It's one of the first banners that you see when you pop up. Or you may have received a newsletter, I think today, with information on how to register. So that concludes everything I have. I'm sorry it was a little long this evening, but I'll ask if you all have any questions.
No, it's very, very timely. There are just so many things happening now. On the Hill, here in the district, and here in Greenbelt. We had a Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments meeting today, and we were talking a little bit about the funding, the continuing resolution that was passed out of the House, and the Senate, I guess, will have to act on that before Sunday. So I don't want to put you on the spot. with any difficult questions, but they were saying that if that passes the way that it is right now, the District of Columbia would experience cuts in their budget by rolling it back to 2024 of almost $1 billion, which is well, really, it's catastrophic. I mean, there's no way to that amount of cuts would affect so many things: public safety, transportation, just in terms of allocations for WMATA, just so many things. And I think you just mentioned the community project grants, and we actually have an item on our agenda kind of looking at these special appropriations, or some people, they used to be called earmarks, I believe.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So until this continuing resolution is passed on Friday, if there's not some change, the ones for 2025 just wouldn't be happening because they're not in the bill.
Right. So they would not be included in a continuing resolution. I believe we would still at some point have to come back and pass an like an official FY25 budget, and there would probably be an opportunity, and we will continue to fight to have our FY25 CPFs included in those, as we did with the CR, as we have with basically every budget resolution that's come across our desk. But yeah, that's.
So for the district, Councilmember Mayor Pro Tem Weaver.
Yeah, this is actually related to something else, but I just wanted to thank the congressman and his office for setting up that the event on March 1st here in Greenbelt for providing resources. I heard from a couple of my colleagues at work that they came and attended and found it helpful to get some of those resources. So just wanted to, I was out of town myself, but I appreciate, thank you for setting that up in your, Congressman Ivey and whoever in the office set that up. Just appreciation for that.
Not a problem. It was a great event. We had several hundred people show up. Greenbelt Middle School was a very gracious host. So was the city. I know you guys really helped us out with that. So thank you for all the work you did.
Councilman Roberts.
Thank you. Thanks for coming out tonight. Appreciate it. I was wondering, what do you think the chances of the shutdown occurring? Because just before I came to the meeting, I was listening to the news, and they were saying that what passed in the House doesn't have the votes in the Senate to pass. So it's not looking good either way. I mean, what's your opinion on that?
Oh,
Or
so
you probably have a much better view than I do. listening to
yeah,
the news.
so it's interesting. I'm not sure, how much I can give of my opinion, since I'm here in my
Well,
official
forget about the
capacity.
opinion. What do you see down
Well, so I
happening that
know,
we don't
so,
see?
so Congressman Ivey did vote against the continuing resolution. He could not in good faith support it, given all the cuts that Mayor Jordan was talking about, including some very significant cuts to projects in our district. It kind of changes every hour. I think I saw earlier today that Majority Leader Schumer said that the Democrats wouldn't help get votes for it, but I really, it could probably an hour from now, there's going to be a different something coming up in the Senate side that they're discussing. So it's, I'm not sure.
Anyway. Appreciate it.
Once again, I don't want
Thank
to.
you anyway. I appreciate
Oh
it.
yeah, no problem.
Don't want to put you on the spot in any way, but if it doesn't pass, what would we likely start to see, on Monday or Tuesday in the short term if it doesn't pass? What Park Service, Greenbelt Park would close down, or what couple of things?
This continuing resolution would be essentially like a full government shutdown. I believe in some of the previous ones there was funding for like the Department of Defense that had already gotten through, and some agencies were allowed to operate. If the government does shut down, this would be exactly like what you said. National Park Service or all the federal agencies would go to essential only staff doing essential duties. I'm sure that the National Park System would probably close their gates for visitors like they have at other times. But I would have to get back to you with some more specifics.
Appreciate that. And I know the city manager in the city of Greenbelt's, looking at contingencies, and we're prepared for whatever happens.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, so thank you so much for being here, as always.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Okay, next I have a proclamation to share, and it's National Women's History Month, and I'm going to present this proclamation, and I'm going to invite the women here on the podium to actually accept, and you guys too, if you'd like to stick around for a moment. for all the women in yeah. You can come a little bit closer. Stand up. Oh, okay. Whereas women of diverse races, classes, ethnicities, sexual orientations, gender identities, and abilities have significantly contributed to the viability and prosperity of our nation, and whereas women have faced and overcome discrimination, harassment, and adversity with courage and resilience, steadfast in the belief that persistence and determination can surmount any barrier, and whereas women are indispensable in the economic, cultural, and social realms of our nation's life, shaping its direction and progress, and whereas throughout history, women have been pivotal in advocating for suffrage, equal opportunities, and in leading movements such as the abolitionists, the emancipation, the industrial labor revolution, and the civil rights movement, often spearheading progressive social changes. And whereas the inception of communities such as Greenbelt to the present day, women, including figures like our own Eleanor Roosevelt, have emerged as influential advocates and thought leaders shaping our societal values and priorities. And whereas, despite their invaluable contributions, the roles and achievements of women have frequently been marginalized and undervalued in historical narratives and scholarly studies. So now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Emmett V. Jordan, by the authority vested in me by the residents of the City of Greenbelt and the City Council, do hereby proclaim March as Women's History Month in Greenbelt to recognize and honor the enduring impact of women in all spheres of life, and to commit to a more inclusive and equitable representation of their contributions in our collective history and future endeavors. So I'd like to present this to all of you, and if you'd like to grab this, and I'll sit down. And everybody stand up. And if we can get a picture.
You can come up, Joe, too.
Hey, come on up. Miss Anderson, if you want to come up.
Oh, good job, Lois. Thank you. I tried. She wouldn't.
Up, up, up. Come on this side so you can be seen.
Thank you. And I don't know, would anyone like to make a comment or any
because I was thinking about this when I was doing some of the research into Greenbelt's council history. One of the things that I think is notable and worth mentioning, especially I appreciate that our communication staff put out a nice picture of the 5 women on city council earlier this month. But I think it's also worth noting, and I'm going to put the slide up. This was one of the slides I prepared for the celebrating past council members, but we actually had a woman elected to Greenbelt City Council in 1938, which I think is like just, a year after our founding, Ruth Taylor, and I think that's notable. And we have the first woman mayor was pretty early on as well. She served on council, Elizabeth Harrington, served on council starting in 1947, and as mayor then from September 1949 to June 1951. And I didn't find confirmation of this, but I think she may have been the first woman mayor in Maryland overall. And you can see, and all of this is from the wonderful News Review Greenbelt Cooperator archives that you can see one of her ads there. So I think we have a long celebrated history of women in elected office in Greenbelt, as well as other wonderful activists in the city, and happy to be part of that.
Thank you. Mr. Hartman.
I also want to note that with all the talk about Social Security and programs that help people. It was Frances Perkins, who was the first Secretary of Labor under President Roosevelt, who created whose idea was the Social Security system. And so we can thank Frances Perkins for that, who also was the first woman to serve as a cabinet member.
Very good. Thank you so much. So the legacy continues. At this time, we're going to move to item number 8A. We have closed session statement of actions taken during the closed session on March the 3rd.
In accordance with the General Provisions Article, Section 3-06C2 of the Annotated Code of the Public General Laws of Maryland, I move that the minutes of tonight's meeting reflect that council met in closed session on Monday, March 3rd, 2025 at 9:34 p.m. in the council chambers. Council held this closed session in accordance with Section 3-305B10 of the General Provisions Article of the Annotated Code of the Public General Laws of Maryland. 1, to discuss public security if the public body determines that public discussion would constitute a risk to the public or to public security, including 1, the deployment of fire and police services and staff, and 2, the development and implementation of emergency plans. The purpose of this meeting was to discuss deployment of fire staff and equipment. Voting to close the session, Ms. Niesel, yes. Ms. McKinney, yes. Ms. Pompey, yes. Ms. Pope, yes. Mr. Roberts, no. Ms. Weaver, yes. Mayor Jordan, yes. In addition to council, Josue Salmaron, city manager, was in attendance. No other individuals were in attendance, and council did not take any actions during the closed session.
Well, let's see, and that's a motion, of course, so we need a second. I'll second that. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Ms. Niesel?
Yes.
Ms. McKinney?
Yes.
Ms. Pompey?
Yes.
Ms. Pope?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts? Ms. Weaver?
Yes.
Mayor Jordan?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Yeah, thank you so much. Is there another one, or is that it?
No, that's the only one we have tonight.
Okay, and I neglected to look up at the screen when we were doing the proclamation for Women's History Month. Ms. Pope, did you have any comments or any thoughts that you wanted to share?
Sorry.
Bless you, yeah.
No, just thank you for doing that. I think it's important that we recognize the women in our community and everywhere, for their contributions. And of course, especially in our city of Greenbelt, like Mayor Pro Tem just mentioned, I think that's a very interesting fact. I didn't know that. So thank you for sharing that, and thank you for doing the proclamation.
It's fun to get lost in the News Review archives.
Yeah, I get you're becoming quite an expert at it too.
And Ms. Pope, I know you're feeling a bit under the weather, so I hope you feel better soon.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. I just figured it's better to stay away and not spread whatever's going around in my school.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Hey, that's going to bring us to item number 9, which is administrative reports. Mr. Salmaron, how are you?
I'm doing great. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm doing well, thank you.
Something to share with us?
Oh, I have quite a few things. The full weekly report is included in the city manager's report is included in the packet, but I'll highlight some of the few items. I want to, unfortunately, Ethan has already left, but I wanted to thank Ethan and his office for their collaboration with us on hosting the event on Saturday. It was well attended by our community members and the larger community. So good event, and there are discussions to have another one, not in Greenbelt, but another similar event to help federal workers transition in the job market. I've got some general good news to report on the budget and planning. We are near closing the deficit. We are just down to the last $156,000 to close so that we could present a balanced budget to council, which is scheduled to come before you on March 24th. We've hosted a couple meetings around the solid waste collection. We made a presentation to council and also entertained a meeting with the Zero Waste group out of Connecticut. This is something that's come through the Green Aces to explore pay-as-you-throw program. So we had initial meetings, we've shared financials, and we'll get a proposal or a recommendation from them how to go about structuring a pilot program. Should those numbers seem to be complementary to what we're proposing with a rate structure as part of our budget, process for solid waste, we will bring that to council for consideration. Key projects that are under works, we have installed the raised crosswalks and speed humps. So 3 of those in place, and we're getting good feedback on those. I think one of our residents here made reference to them in their citizen concern remarks. The Shrum Hills path work has started. So I haven't gone out there myself to see the progress, but it should be completed and the final touch-ups taking place this week. We have finalized the program schedule for the Aquatic and Fitness Center. I've shared a memo with council, and I welcome feedback from council if that's something you would like to see as a consent agenda item, or if you want further discussion as part of a council meeting. We have finalized logistics for the business conference that's scheduled for April 3rd. So we sent out invitations, and you would have seen that online and email, that advertisement going out. So we expect a good turnout for that event. Ethan also made reference to the federal earmarks. The Senate and the Congress office have different timelines. As you heard tonight from Ethan, their deadline is March 31st. The Senators Van Hollen's office had a March 7th deadline, so we went through the prioritizations and we submitted 3. There's still room to make adjustments, as we'll discuss federal earmarks later in the agenda, but just wanted to share that we submitted our 3 top priorities. Artful Afternoon workshop was held, well attended. Mr. Hartman made reference to the youth musical performances. They were sold out shows, so very well attended activities. We continue our work on the summer activity guide and camp logistics. We'll later report out when we close summer camps, but as you know, they're usually in high demand and we have a wait list. So we expect this year to be no different, maybe demand to increase even further. We hosted a Red Cross drive at the community center, and I'll take any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. A lot of things happening. You mentioned the speed hump installations. Where are those? I'd like to know so I can slow down before I hit them.
You want to avoid the area? They're on Ridge Road.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Very good, very good. And you also mentioned the work on the Shrum Hills bike and pedestrian connections. That would actually connect between Hanover Parkway and one of the entryways into Shrum Hills Park. And it will actually make it easier for someone on a bike or pedestrian to get to the park without going on the sidewalk. There's a stretch of Hanover Parkway with no sidewalk, and that would actually avoid that stretch.
Correct, and equally important is that the terrain changes. There is a path there, but it's gravel, it's uneven. This work will make a smooth paved surface.
Mr. Roberts.
Thank you. I have a request to the city manager. Sorry about it, I got something in my throat. I've noticed that we've kind of changed the board and committee interviews into meetings, but we're not calling them meetings. And at the same time, we're not providing a link for people to get into the meetings. And I know you're concerned about, staying within the Open Meetings Act. So we really can't have a meeting and not call it a meeting and not provide any access to the public. But also, I'm not getting any access. Every time I want to go, I need to go call in to go to one of these interviews, which is really a meeting. I don't have a link, and there's nothing in my packet. There's nothing in the news review. I shouldn't have to call the mayor every time I need to get a link to get in. So if we could remedy that, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts, for raising that. I'm not aware. From my understanding, we haven't changed the process. Mayor Pro Tem, I see your hand up.
Well, but when you look in the news review, you'll see it doesn't say meeting, it says board and committee interview. And that's it. And then there's no link, there's no nothing. But in actuality, the council is meeting because you have sometimes all the members, or there's almost always more than 4 there. So to me, that's a meeting, whether you're doing an interview or not. It used to be we did interviews before a regular meeting, and it was about a half an hour, we'd do 2 or 3 interviews, whatever we had to do. But that was open to the public. Anyone that wanted to go into the library over here where we had those meetings was welcome and could go in there. But now what I'm talking about is the virtual meetings. So people can't come down and go in there and see. And when we're doing committee interviews for people getting on a committee or a board, that really is a public meeting. So all I'm asking is give me a link to get in and give the public a link to get in. I don't think you're going to be overrun with people wanting to go to a board interview.
I understand your concern, and I will look into your request because from my understanding is the process hasn't changed since I've been here. And
Well, since you've been here, but I've been here a lot longer, so.
certainly,
Yeah, well, if we've been doing this for a year and not providing any link or anything to people, then we're not doing it right.
we are providing a link in our disclosure in the newspaper, itemized the meetings, including the advisory board and commission interviews. And at the bottom of that announcement, it says the link is available at the website and also through the.
Peter, you're not going to go to a link on a website.
Okay.
You need to put the link in
recognize
the
Mayor Pro
ad,
Tem.
or you need to put the link in my packet where I can get it.
It is
I
a
don't
link
have a
pack.
I don't have a computer to go on.
Definitely
and get a link
rectify
to the
that
link.
situation, but at this
So you
time,
need to
I think-
provide the
I
link.
think we hear you. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, well, I just want to comment on that because I personally did not like doing the advisory board and interviews before a regular meeting because I felt like it was very rushed. I felt like I was always we were trying to rush through the advisory board and interviews. So I very much appreciate it, having it as a separate thing. And I think that link is available. I mean, since I have been on council, there has never been anybody sitting in on those advisory board interviews. I mean, it was in the library, somebody could have come in, but I think that the link can be made available if somebody wants to. But I think one thing is having it as an advisory board interviews that, yes, can be open if somebody wants to join, if they request the link, but it's much easier to do it, first of all, virtually for most people. I recognize perhaps not for you, Mr. Roberts, but I think for most people, and I much prefer doing it as a number of interviews all at a chunk, 4 or 5, all in one batch, instead of trying to rush to do one 20 minutes before a regular meeting. That was extremely stressful and I think was hard. I do not feel like we were giving people the due they deserved because we had to look at the clock and be timed off and trying to think about the regular meeting. So I much prefer the way we're doing it, and I think that we are advertising that they are happening. I think the challenge maybe, Mr. Roberts, I think Ms. Lashley Mullins sends out that information and it's included in the packet and it's received an email. Now I know you choose not to read your email, but that information is provided to you.
Have an email.
Yeah, and I
have no
we
computer.
appreciate
I
that.
have no
I
email.
appreciate that.
And
Yeah,
the
I
fact,
appreciate
I'm not questioning how we're doing the interviews, but I'm saying that how we're doing them is a meeting of the city council. And when you have a meeting, you need to advertise it as that, and you need to provide opportunity for people to get in.
Right.
And
So
I'm not
we've
being
heard you, Mr. Roberts.
provided that opportunity.
Jim.
And I'm on the city council, I should
So
get that
I'd
link.
like to make a comment.
Having you sit
One,
here and say I am
Yeah,
is not
Mr.
giving it
Roberts.
to me. Thank you.
So I have to tell you, I've been on council now for 15 years, and I believe Ms. Pope has also been on council for 15 years, and I have never had anyone sit in on an interview in that 15 years because it's not so much that there's sensitive information, but it's an interview, like a job interview a little bit. It's a structured conversation. It's not a meeting, but it is structured. It's a personnel activity, so I think it is covered as an exemption.
It's not a closed meeting. It's advertised.
Yeah. And I don't know, Ms. Pope, do you?
I like the way we're doing it, and I know that we get together. I know if you want to consider it as a meeting, I don't know. I mean, it is a structured interview. We asked the applicant, a few questions, nothing major, but I'm wondering, so are we now I have no problem getting in because we get the link. We get, through the email, but are we providing the email any other way? Not the email, I'm sorry. Are we providing the link any other way when we're advertising the meetings? Because that, of course, I have not looked at.
Thank you. I want to assure Mr. Roberts that we will make sure that he gets the information in writing with a phone number or a way to call in. I don't know why you've not seen it, but it's important for you to
Well,
have
it
that
is,
information.
because I need to call in.
Yes,
When you're
I
having a
appreciate that.
virtual
So
meeting,
Rodney,
you
are you
need to
not
call
able-
in.
Personally
Rodney,
guarantee
are you
that
not
we'll
able
have
to
that for you.
join on the computer? Or
I don't have a computer,
You
Sophie.
want to
So if you
join
don't
by
have
phone,
one,
right?
you can't use it. And tell
Okay.
you the truth, I don't want to use one.
Okay,
I don't
okay.
want to.
No, I'm just
that's
asking. I
fine.
just want to
But
make sure I
we'll
understand.
I've
provide the information
participated
for
in
you.
meetings for 33 years well, I have had one most of the time, but not in the last couple of years because my personal life has changed. But the fact is, regardless of what the council is discussing, no matter what the issue is, if you have 4 members of city council that are getting together discussing any kind of city business, that is a meeting, and you have to advertise it as such, and you have to provide access to it, or you have to say this is a closed meeting and you don't have access.
Okay.
All
and I
I'm
think that's
asking is a simple thing. Give me the link, please.
So, yeah, we'll
I
make sure
somewhat
that you
agree
get the
with you. I
link.
think
Mr.
from now on,
yeah.
maybe we should just advertise the link, and we'll make sure that you get the call-in number so you can
We can,
call in.
yeah. Mr. Summerall and then Councilmember Pompey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Rodney, no, sorry, Mr. Roberts. Mr. Roberts, sorry. I know we hand deliver a packet to you. You're the only person we deliver a hand packet to. We do that. And that information,
Link in there. and
It is in there.
At least fix, no.
it is in
No, I
there.
looked at last week, we had whatever the last interview was. I looked in my packet, there was no link in there. I looked on the News Review, there was no link in there. And the time before that, it was the same thing. I had to call the mayor at the last minute and say, what's the link? And then they sent me a link, a phone number that I could call in and get into the meeting. I don't want to have to keep doing that.
No.
And I don't want to keep violating the Open Meetings Act because
Not apply that because we are not.
it's a meeting.
And it's
a meeting.
advertised.
I'm not going to have this argument. This is an administrative matter. We'll work it out.
Why do we have to make
Please,
it such a
sir.
big deal? All I'm asking for is give me a link and give the people a link.
Say it
That's all.
again. We'll take care of it.
I'll make sure to inspect your physical packet that goes out this week to make sure that is clearly spelled out. On the email and computer, we have a computer for you and you have an email account. And if you need anything from us to facilitate access to that, we have an IT team that will set up your laptop and help you access your email. But you do have an email account and a computer assigned to you.
You may need a hotspot or something. I don't know.
Fortunately, we don't have a lot of virtual meetings now, which I'm glad. So, but the interviews are different. So just give me the link. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, Councilmember?
The phone link.
I think
I-
I don't have anything more to say on this. I think we could just.
Thank you.
I think we're all clear on what we have and we know what the problem is and how to solve it. So I think we can move on.
Okay, any other questions about administrative reports? A lot of things going on. That's for sure. Hey, so one question, you mentioned parks. So with our American Rescue Plan funding, one of the priorities that we set aside was funding to rehabilitate the athletic fields at Buddy Attic Lake and at Schramm Hills. And I was talking with Andrew Phelan a little bit. So can you give us an update on when that work is going to start? I understand it may actually start at Schramm Hills with just some pre-work, putting the fence around there. Is that right?
That's correct. We did have the pre-construction meetings for those projects, and we'll have fencing and grading going into those projects. I do not have a project schedule, but the team is committed to getting it done this year.
Okay. So what I'd like to ask is if we can send, when you have a timeline or some information, I'd like to have it sent to the homeowner association management companies for the surrounding communities over there, Green Spring 1 and Green Spring 2, Hunting Ridge, the Lakes at Greenbelt Village, and Greenbelt Village Estates. Did I say that right?
Greenbrook Estates?
Yeah.
Yes, we can arrange for that.
Thank you so much. And this time, I'm going to move on to the next item on the agenda. Sir, I'm not recognizing you right now, so let's move on to item number 10, please. Number 11, excuse me. Yes, excuse me, sir. I am not recognizing you right now, so we are moving on to item number 11, which is a charter amendment resolution of the Council of the City of Greenbelt to amend Section 4, creation, qualifications, compensation of the city charter to raise the compensation of the council. In the council packet, there is a resolution for a charter amendment concerning codifying the council compensation agreement. And this is back from fiscal year 2024. And although council voted on this measure and incorporated the information in the last budget, it's been pointed out that we did not properly codify it. So to remedy this situation, this instance, the city manager advised that we put this on the agenda, and it was read for the first time on February 24th. The recommendation is that this resolution be introduced for second reading and adoption at this meeting. Now, Ms. Pope, I believe you had introduced this resolution the first time. Are you able to introduce this for second reading and adoption?
Yes. I'd like to introduce for second reading and adoption a charter amendment resolution of the Council of the City of Greenbelt to amend Section 4, creation, qualifications, compensation of the city charter to raise the compensation of the council.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you very much. Is there any discussion? I tried to describe it. Mr. Samaron, could you just reiterate what?
Sure. During the 2024 budget process, there was compensation adjusted to council by $2,000 increase on council members and the mayor. This, what you're doing tonight is just codifies that action taken through the budget process. So you're not granting yourself a wage increase in your current cycle or the next cycle. It's correcting what you had intended to do in fiscal year 2024.
Is there any additional discussion? And there is a hand raised. If you have a comment on this issue, I'll accept it. If not, don't even try it. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah, I guess one question, because I realized that this was, that this is, I think we have to do this because the compensation is actually part of our city charter rather than just being part of the budget. I'm just curious, is that usual to have that as part of the city charter?
I would say it depends. I think our founding members of the charter wanted any compensation for council to be a charter amendment.
Okay.
So most places I've seen it be an ordinance because it has to have the authority of law for multiple years if compensation is to be adjusted one time for multiple years versus if it's a 1-year adjustment, we'll just require a resolution. So I think it depends on the communities.
Okay.
But compensation for staff and for staff is set by ordinance through the
budget ordinance.
Mm-hmm.
But this is just this one is different, and it's just that we should have done this at the same time that we passed the budget for fiscal 24. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
That's correct. Mr. Orleans?
Uh, 3 months ago, a very nice person appeared at this lectern to make the suggestion again that she thought council deserved an increase in its compensation. This is the very same nice person who 17, 18 years ago appeared at this lectern or some previous lectern and made the very same suggestion. Notwithstanding that she's a very nice person, she was a front then as she was a few months ago. It's no secret, I'm not being uncivil, but it's no secret that from my perspective, even recognizing the results of the last election and the subsequent selection, I accept those results. But it's my perspective that current council doesn't merit the compensation it's been receiving for the past 17 years or at whatever point you joined council. That aside, it is a charter amendment, and while I'm not fully understanding the distinction made by the city manager a minute ago about how this could have been done differently, a charter amendment requires council voting to amend the charter. I have a specific question. I'm now reading not from the whole of tonight's package, but the publicly distributed package, but this same sentence appeared 3 weeks ago. The third whereas, whereas the council has determined a modest increase after 16 years is fair, reasonable, and in the best interest of the city and its residents. My question is, at what meeting was there a discussion that council verbally determined that an increase in its compensation was appropriate? That's a specific question. The phrase here is that council has determined. I've been party to the discussions of this over the years. I was party to this discussion some months ago when it theoretically was raised. I don't ever remember council by voice vote or by poll, certainly not by roll call, but by poll, saying that each of council was determining that an increase was appropriate. When did that determination occur?
I believe it occurred during the budget process.
Yeah.
While we were drafting this resolution, we looked up the minutes for various work sessions and meetings, and we did find minutes where this item was discussed, where the public weighed in and thought that council was overdue for a wage adjustment. We can provide those minutes if council deems necessary. The other point that's a clear record of council's intent was the fact that in the budget book, it makes an explicit budget comment that the wages for council are being adjusted in the budget, and that document was formally adopted by council.
Thank you very much. And for the sake of clarity, can you read council's, if it's okay with council, can the city manager just read out our remuneration annually? Is that okay? Yeah.
Public information.
Why don't you go ahead and read it out?
Got it here. All right, so the mayor's annual salary is $14,000, and the salary for all other council members is $12,000.
Okay, did we have a motion? We
Yeah.
did. Madam Clerk, can you call the roll, please?
Ms. Niso?
Yes.
Ms. McKinney?
Yes.
Ms. Pompey?
Yes.
Ms. Pope?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
No.
Ms. Weaver?
Yes.
Mayor Jordan?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you very much. So at this time, we're going to move to other business, and we're going to have a brief discussion, or actually as long as it takes, to review state and county legislation. Included in the packet materials was a document from our consultant contractor, Mr. Carrington. He included his weekly bill tracking report for Greenbelt and also for county bills, for state bills and county bills. One of the things that Mr. Carrington highlighted that we're very aware of is we're at a point in the legislative session, we are about halfway through, and in the next week is the deadline for bills crossing over from one house to another for reconciliation. So it's my understanding that nearly 3,000 bills have been presented by the state legislatures, the senators and the delegates, which is a pretty phenomenal number of bills on so many topics. So at this point, there have not been many significant bills that have been presented in the last week. Councilmember Pompey is co-chair of the Prince George's County Municipal Association Legislative Committee, and I do serve on the Maryland Municipal League Legislative Committee. So the Maryland Municipal League, their staff, they actually track bills and testify on our behalf and invite us to testify on bills occasionally. So we actually canceled the last meeting because there were no new significant bills to consider. A couple have come up. I know Councilmember Pompey has one. There's a bill that I wanted to talk about a little bit. A resident sent some information into us, and I'd like to comment and maybe take some action on it. Councilmember Pompey, would you like to go first?
Sure. So the bill I'm going to share with you all is what's sort of quickly referred to as the good cause eviction bill, and this would enable it's enabling legislation that would enable counties to enact good cause eviction legislation so that renters could not be evicted for basically no reason. So right now, I think renters are evicted in Prince George's County around 5,000 at a rate of around 5,000 a year for no cause at all. They're just evicted. So this piece of legislation would, people would still be able to be evicted, but it would have to be for a good reason, like for not paying their rent, for being disorderly, for damaging the property or something like that. Whereas now people can pretty much be evicted just because someone wants to raise the rent, or because maybe they complained about the conditions and they don't want to hear their complaints anymore. So you can really be evicted for any reason at all. Your landlords they don't have to provide any reason for evicting you. So, so this act has been, but right now, sort of what's happening with it now is that some senators have attached an amendment to this bill that would make counties choose between, I guess it's rent stabilization and good cause eviction. So they would like to say that basically counties could have one or the other. Either you can have good cause evictions or you can have rent stabilizations, which is kind of a false equivalency. That they're two very different things here. I think the reason some people are trying to equivocate them is because when you do evict people, you are allowed to raise your rent, but there's caps on that in our rent stabilization bills. So they're saying, well, really, if you're making it harder to evict people, you shouldn't need that as much. I mean, it's the rationalization. I don't know if Mayor has more, but it's very much a false equivalency. So folks are pushing right now. So the bill was supposed to have a hearing, I think, on Monday, but it was canceled. And people are working pretty hard right now to get a clean bill passed so that, counties can have this legislation should they want it.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Is that a good summary of?
That's a good summary. So let me ask you a question. Prince George's County Municipal Association also has a contractor that's engaged to follow these bills. So, I think it's Mr. Perez, his firm. So I'm just wondering, based on their read of this bill, is it likely to go forward? And do we really have an opportunity to weigh in?
I think we could still have an opportunity to weigh in. I'm not sure of how likely it is to go forward, though, with this amendment, because the people who are advocating for this bill do not want the amendment because, the people who are advocating for this bill are essentially the same people who advocate for rent stabilization. So, they don't want to give up one thing to be able to accept another. They really want both of these bills to both these laws to exist side by side. So
They don't want a bill to pass if it's not clean. So I think if this amendment is not removed, I don't think it's going to pass.
Okay, so what would your recommendation be? Shall we wait and not weigh in, or do you think it's our weighing in on the bill would make a difference one way or the other?
I mean, I think it could make a difference, you know, if we want to, you know, support a clean bill for a good cause eviction. You know, I think everyone in this room knows how harmful evictions are to our community, how hard it is for a family to recover from eviction. And I think, you know, if this helps us see fewer evictions, it would be a good thing. So.
And you just mentioned the hearing was canceled this week, so you know when it would come up again?
I can't find when it's been rescheduled, so I don't know when it's going to come up again. So
Right,
we could
it's-
maybe ask Mr. Carrington if he knows. Because we do have to submit a letter within 24 hours.
So we have a little leeway.
Yeah, so maybe we could ask Mr. Carrington if he knows when it's been rescheduled, and if there's time, we could submit a letter.
Would you like to make some sort of a motion, or any thoughts about that, council?
Shared my thoughts.
I think we should check in with Mr. Carrington, unless, you know, I think it.
Is it worthwhile to do a motion officially now? I think.
Make a motion to do the letter if we can do it. That way we don't have to, because I doubt that we would have time for
Right.
2 weeks.
Right.
That would be the next 7 minutes. So, I move that the city council write a letter supporting a clean, good cause eviction bill.
I'll second that.
Okay, is there any additional discussion? Let me call the question then. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed?
I'm going to abstain from
gonna
this
abstain?
vote because I really don't know anything about, I mean, I have not looked into this bill, sorry.
Okay, appreciate it. Hey, there's a bill that I wanted to bring up. One of our residents sent an email about it, and that was Senate Bill 1045, House Bill 1554. And it's a sales and use tax, taxable business services, alterations. So, and I asked Mr. Carrington to take a quick look at this. And he says the bill seeks to amend the Maryland sales and use tax laws by altering the definition of taxable price and taxable service. So this bill aims to expand the scope of taxable services to include a broader range of business services, particularly those related to accounting, payroll, IT, consulting, professional services, and business-related functions. And it also clarifies that certain labor and taxable services be set at 2.5% of the taxable price. That's to be the tax. So this bill was introduced, their sponsors is it's in the House and in the Senate. So the email that we all got was from someone in the automotive business, and they were saying that they'd have to increase their prices by 2.5%. Now, I was thinking about this a little bit in light of the current atmosphere that we're in, with so many of our residents being laid off or fired or whatever you want to call it. I think we already have a lot of people that are working from home doing professional services. So at this time, I think while I appreciate that the state of Maryland is really facing a rather large deficit, I just think that increasing this tax on services, professional services, automotive services, I think it might cause a little bit of a hardship on people that are just starting businesses or doing professional services or other personal services. So based on Mr. Carrington's recommendations and my thoughts on this, I wanted to actually see how council felt about this, and I would actually make a motion that we write a letter to oppose. Yeah.
Well, how would you think I feel about it? Because I'm self-employed, and I guess they want to tax my labor. Is that what they're trying to do?
That is what they're trying to do.
I mean, they get paid for all the parts I sell, but now they want to tax my labor. And I think it's pretty bad because it's, they're just showing that all they can do is go and stick their hand out. They make no effort to try to spend our money more wisely. And I'm not, I'm not a Republican saying that. I'm an independent person that works hard for a living. And I don't want them taxing my labor because it's my labor.
Is that a second then, Mr. Roberts?
Yeah, I'd second that.
Right.
Why would I?
Yeah, and it's
kind
just
of a
all sorts of
conflict.
professional services. So people with a side gig, if they're doing accounting or IT or working with a nonprofit, I mean, and there's just a lot of people doing those kinds of things. Yes,
Is there a fiscal note attached to it? Do you know?
I think he forwarded a fiscal
Okay.
note, but
I was just
I'm sure
wondering.
that it is. And the situation that we're facing in the state of Maryland with I think it's a $3.8 billion deficit. We're going to be hearing a lot more about that in the near future, but I just don't think that this is a good solution short term. There is a fiscal note. I don't think it's really that big of. I don't think it's $3 billion.
I was kind of wondering. That's why I was asking if it was really like even worth it. If it was going to make a big dent in it, which I don't think that it will. That's why I was asking. But okay.
So if there's no further discussion, I'd like to go ahead and take a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Do you want to update them on the municipal zoning bill?
Why don't you go ahead?
I have to look it up. Mr. Carrington just sent something about that today. I'll just read his update. So this is the House Bill 1266, and this was to give municipalities some zoning authority. It will be amended to establish a working group to study DPI and all related local issues as a local bill. We appreciate Delegate Alston's presentation this afternoon. While we have not yet received the amendments, we understand that the substance will encompass the 3 local zoning bills that we have been discussing. So we're basically, it seems like this is good news, but we're waiting on more information on that.
So the DPI piece, that would relate to our ability to actually do some of our own permitting.
Yeah.
Not so much zoning, but it's a study group, and it's something that just came across today. Apparently there's a hearing. So I don't think there's any action that's associated with this.
Letting folks
Yeah.
know if they're following.
Right. And I did testify last week on Senator Watson and Senator Rosapap's bill to increase the level of municipal citations, to take the cap off from $1,000 to $5,000. And it seemed MML was also there in person to testify, and Mayor Benitez from Mount Rainier was there in person. I was able to testify virtually. And it seemed to go pretty well. So I think there's a good chance that that is going to cross over and make it to the floor. But the thing is, with this many bills, 3,000 bills, and only so much time left, it gets to a point where there's actually a crunch. There are things that there is enough support to pass a bill, but there's just not enough time to get it through the process. And that's kind of what happened to a couple of our priority bills last year. The one about having a non-sworn municipal official being able to sign off on automated traffic citations. That had support last year, and it just didn't quite make it to the floor.
It's looking good this year.
It is looking pretty good. So at the next council council meeting, I'd like to perhaps provide a more comprehensive update that the public can see as well, as far as bills supported by the Maryland Municipal League and by other entities, PGCMA. And
It'll be after crossover, so it'll probably be a little bit better and easier to do at that time.
Hey, anybody else have bills or priorities they'd like to share? Yes, please.
I just wanted to mention, and I had forwarded this information, but that there were a few things that some attempts to regulate the bring your own bag bills that I'd forwarded some information about. I think, you know, some of them are similar to things that were proposed at the county level in terms of capping the cost at 10 cents, or also providing some exemptions, which, you know, I think there were some of the concerns about someone who is on SNAP benefits being charged for the bags, and also I think this was a new one, was seniors. I think when this had come up at the county level, the concern with the 10-cent cap was that would not allow the retailers who are getting that money to recoup the cost of the more expensive paper bags. And I know, for example, Dan Gelati from the co-op was very concerned about that. And I think I think the proposal was that for those who might, to provide reusable bags so that people can have the bags for those who might not want to or be able to pay the 10 cents. So I think they're mostly pretty, like some of them are very similar to what came to before the county and didn't pass. There are some that seem a little bit more extreme in terms of, well, and one I think this was HB 1232, required that the charge be printed on the receipt, but I think that's actually already a requirement. So it sounded like, I mean, Mr. Carrington didn't, so this came from the Sierra Club, who helped us formulate our bill, and I think also helped formulate the county's bill, and they have already submitted opposition. I think we're past the committee hearings anyway. And I think Mr. Carrington's feeling is that maybe these bills, he doesn't believe that the bills will move forward at this time. So I'm not sure there's anything we necessarily need to do at this point, especially because we're already past the committee hearings. But I think that's worth mentioning, since we did pass our own bag bill, and as did the county. And these were, I mean, I think I understand the concerns about people being charged for bags who maybe can't afford that, but I think there's some challenges with doing it in this way, and I think at least some people felt like, well, the better way is to make sure bags were distributed. We had our Green Aces team distribute bags. I know Ingrid Watson and as through her county council office distributed bags, and I think that's still something that if we see that there's a need for those, we could continue doing. But I don't know that there necessarily is action needed on this, but it is something that is relevant to our local legislation.
Definitely. Hey, if I'm not mistaken, I think we talked about this at the Maryland Municipal League, and one of the bill's sponsors was Delegate Karen Tolles, and she's a former Prince George's County council member. So, you know, we talked about the pros and cons and decided not to weigh in, mostly because some people were saying that it would actually be a little bit of a step in the right direction, because it would actually make the requirement statewide as opposed to just a patchwork of counties. So,
yeah, although I don't know that any of these actually impose a statewide requirement. I mean, for example, the one that is sponsored by Delegate Tolles caps the charge on paper carryout bags at 10 cents for all local bills in the state. So I think it's not actually creating a statewide rule in one sense. It's just saying that localities can't have a different cap. So I think, you know, if the state were to impose a statewide rule, I think that's not necessarily a bad thing. There are clearly other states around the country that have done you know, bag charges statewide, but it doesn't seem to me like any of these bills seem to be more about affecting how localities can implement their own bag bills rather than creating a statewide bag bill.
Step in the right, perhaps it's a slight, small step in the right direction. I don't know. But, yeah. So let's go ahead and
yeah, I just wanted to bring, that's more of a point of information, because I think the committee hearings have already passed.
Yes.
And so I'm not sure that there's anything we need to do. I mean, if it seems appropriate, we could send the testimony that we already prepared for example, for the county council bills, but I think we can wait and see if they cross over and then decide if we need to do anything more at this point.
I would concur with that. Item number 13 is federal earmark priorities for discussion. So our city team administrative team, they've reviewed, they've listened, they've reviewed various projects for submission to our federal delegation for earmark funding, or for, what did Ethan call it? Community project?
Community project funds,
grants.
I think?
Yeah, that sounds a lot
Community
better than
project
units.
funding, I
Yeah,
think it
yeah,
was
community
CPF,
project funding.
maybe?
Yeah, CPF. But, so, I mean, this funding is very, very helpful to the city. It's for projects, capital projects that we feel are priorities. They are priorities, but we don't really have it in our budget to take care of them. But I asked City Manager Somarone to just, provide the projects that were submitted so that council can kind of weigh in. I think they are very thoughtfully presented, and I think they do reflect the thinking of council and the public. So the primary filters in identifying the ranking proposals, the way that the projects were ranked, was: did the project meet a current city need? Number 2, was the project consistent with council goals and city manager pillars? And number 3, was there an appropriate federal program or funding source that applies? And as a note, all of this funding, these funding requests must be tied to an existing federal funding source and be consistent with its goals and purpose. And finally, so there are 2 documents that are attached. The second document, one is a long list of 5 projects submitted to our Senate delegations to get their initial feedback, submitted to staff on the projects themselves. And the other was just an identification of the federal funding source, tying those together. So city, county, and state for resident, staff believes these requests reflect and support the mission and goals of city, county, and state for resident support, economic development, and public safety. Note that the Senate has moved its process forward quickly, and thus submissions to Senator Van Hollen and Senator Alsobrooks was due on March the 7th. The House has set a deadline of March 31st, but at this time has yet to provide an application or guidance. So, Mr. Somarone, can we put those up on the screen and just quickly take a look? And if council has any thoughts or comments, we can weigh in on how they're prioritized.
Sure.
Here we go. Screen.
I think it's actually the second one that we should be reviewing.
Yeah, I think is it. Yeah, because that's the full list. I think the one that has the sort of the 3 short list items.
Okay. Sounds like a plan. Let's go ahead. Let's see.
I think there is some value in the overall projects list, because it's good for council and the public to have a general idea of all the things that were considered. And we went back and forth with the senator's office to get feedback, what items they thought that would be the most competitive in their pool. And that's how we ended up with the 3 priorities. But there is a full list of projects that many of those projects are things that we eventually need to do. And so we will continue to look for funding for those projects. And some of those projects we may need to use our own capital to do that work.
Do you want to hit the highlights?
Sure. I'll start off with the overall 5 priorities that we went back and forth with the senator's office. We have reached out to the congressman's office too, and they're generally supportive of anything we want to bring to them. They have trust in the administration and council that we are vetting our projects and prioritizing what we want them to fund, and they're very supportive of our work. But overall, of the 5 priorities that we solicited feedback from the senator's office are: the first priority is the Greenbelt Visitor and Education Center. This is our GHI house. And why this project is top priority is that we have several layers of funding already secure, but the project cannot move forward unless we make up that we somehow find that $300,000 that's critical to fund the project. Otherwise, it's just stalling. And as time goes on, we risk losing the funding that we have already secured. So, in addition to that being a time-sensitive project, it does check off several funding sources: the HUD Economic Development Initiatives, the IE Historic Preservation Fund. So there's a couple funding sources.
You know, as you said, that project has been in the works for a few years. There's been a lot of attempts at fundraising, so it's almost as if we're asking for a match to what's already been allocated, and that would be enough to put it over the top so it could be completed.
Right, and that's what we need from the federal government and with this application, just to get it get that last bit of funding.
So I'm sorry, just to clarify then, so is this a match? So what has been raised and is this request to match what has been raised?
Yeah, so we need we're requesting $600,000, which is what we need for the project. But one of the elements of these federal earmarks is that you may not get the entire amount, so you need to be able to do something with the amount of funding that you get. So if we are able to secure $300,000 of it, we can move forward with the project to its completion. It may not have all the features that we need, but we feel confident that we can move that project forward. Did that answer your question?
So then why are we asking for 600,000? Sorry, I'm trying to understand the difference between the 300,000 and the 600,000.
Right, the 600,000 will get us all the bells and whistles. The 300,000 gets the project completed, the core visitor center. We may not be able to do all the displays and all the added enhancements that we need, but we need that 300,000 to get us over the hurdle. These.
Councilmember Pope, are you there?
Yes, thank you. So 600,000, 300,000 versus 600,000. So I thought that was interesting as well. I was going to ask the same question. And what happened to the fundraising efforts that the Greenbelt Museum was doing?
I understand that those efforts have been continuing for numerous years.
Yeah, and my understanding is the fundraising is ongoing. I believe, and we can ask the museum for the specific number. So they've had some degree of success, but it's kind of, the COVID happened and a number of other things happened. There's some city resources, I believe, are in there from 4 or 5 years ago. So
we have bond money attached.
Bond money as well. So that's why we really need to finish this project, because the state bond money that's allocated, and that's about 4 years old, I believe.
It's a few years old, yes.
Really need to complete this project, or else we may lose the bond money.
And we own the property. That's another piece of this that makes it complicated. It's the property that we own.
Did you want to follow up, or should I recognize Mr. Roberts, please?
I hate to say it, but as important as we think these projects are, I think we got to remember that thousands and thousands of people are losing their jobs with the federal government right now, on the pretext that somebody's trying to balance the budget, or they don't have the money, to have to continue to pay these people. So I think we should take a pass on asking for money right now, because I don't want to take any money out of the federal government that needs to stay there to keep people in their jobs. That's what my concern is right now. Yeah, I'd love to have all these things done, but keeping people in their jobs has to be way more important right now. And so I just don't feel right asking for $600,000 or $300,000, for the museum or for pretty much anything else, unless it has to do with public safety or, serious issue that we have. So that's kind of how I'm feeling right now about this. So I don't know that I can support this or not. I don't know.
Okay, thank you. Please, Councilmember.
Is it possible to see where they are right now in their fundraising efforts? I don't know if that's going to be something that could be presented to us, because it is a lot of money and a big ask, and I actually, somewhat agree with Mr. Roberts. It's a lot of money given a lot of the priorities and things that are happening in our community. I also think that some of the other items that you have listed as a priority really do potentially align with some of the things that our residents are really going to need if they are facing hardships from their jobs and things like that. So, when we look at, for example, the Spring Hill Lake Recreation Addition and Expansion, that is going to support community members that actually may be impacted at this time. So it would be helpful to have some additional information on what fundraising they're doing. And then, we might want to, I understand having the bells and whistles, but there may need to be a phased process of looking at what do we need right now so we don't lose the money, because I understand that is really important for us to not lose the money that we already have. But then is there a phased strategy that we look to the future to make future requests for the things that may get the bells and whistles, and focus more of our request on the things that we know are going to be a priority for a lot of residents right now?
If I could, that's one of the reasons why I asked this to be on the agenda. But this process where staff has consulted with congressional staff is a way of actually sort of weighing the feasibility of projects to move forward, so that matching the idea to potential funding sources is what has already happened. And so let's hear them all out. And it's such uncertainty right now. I'm not even sure that we will be able to get any of this funding. But if we do, our congressional members will have the funding, and it could go to us, it could go to some other municipality. So I think that it is important for us to ask. Yeah, please.
I'm happy to wait for Mr. Summerlin to go through the other two, and then I can make my comments afterwards.
Mm-hmm. I hear all the concerns, especially yours, Councilmember McKinney. This project, I find it particularly challenging because we own the building. It's a city facility, and it's in dire needs. There's been a multi-year plan, or there's been work done over many years to try to renovate this and turn it into the visitor center, and it just simply hasn't been able to get to the finish line. The funding sources for this type of project are very, very sparse in the state, and they usually require some sort of local match, like actual city funds to be the match. At the moment, it doesn't have that. The $300,000 will help bring that additional funding to get the project to completion. I feel particularly as a manager, I find this probably one of the more challenging projects because one, it's stalled for a long time. It's a facility that's just not, it could do so much better, and there's a plan. And I'm sad to see it dragged out for so many years, and we're losing that money, and with more time, that funding just is at risk of losing. We need to reapply for extension of that bond bill money that we've received. So it's got so many challenges with it. So my hope is that this project falls into one of the funding categories that none of the other projects fall in, and that's the Historic Preservation Fund. And this is the only project that we have that fits in that historic preservation. So my hope is that this project, us submitting this project, is not competing with Spring Hill Lake Recreation. That if our delegates are able to push for the two, that when they get to the committee, as they're negotiating with other committee members, that they're going to be, I think we can be frank here. We know how some of these committee works. They're brokering. They're making arrangements in these committees, what is going to be funded, who can who can lobby for what projects the most. And there's some projects that get funded because there's funding available in that pot of money. So fewer projects are competing for the same pot of money. So I think this one, compared to the other projects, is going to be in a separate pot of money than the Spring Hill Lake. We really don't know the ends because we don't know the pool of applicants and we don't know the minds at the committee table, right? What are people motivated to defend for their community? Because there's also an element of that. When we connect with our federal delegation, whether it's the senator's office or the congressman's office, we try to get an understanding of where the congressman and the senator are around these projects. Do they understand them well? Do they have a personal passion for those projects and for those communities? And projects that the team just get really excited about are the ones that are likely to do better in the committees because they're going to be able to promote them better.
Mayor Pro Tem, and then
Well, did Mr. Silverman, did you want to talk about the other two projects? Because like I said, I'm happy to wait till we go through all three of them.
So
I'd like to make just a clarifying statement for the record and for the good of the public that the Greenbelt Museum is actually a nonprofit run by a board, the Friends of Greenbelt Museum, and as such has the capability to fundraise in a way that neither of these other two projects have a capability to do. And I think that is very important as we look at what we are putting forth as our priorities, because we cannot fundraise for the Spring Hill Lake Recreation Center, for example, whereas the Greenbelt Museum, with proper training and resources, could do a wonderful job fundraising, as many other nonprofits in Greenbelt have been able to do for capital projects.
And your point's well taken. I have to tell you that the museum designed a very powerful case statement and worked with a consultant, a reputable consultant, to develop a case, and they've launched a quiet phase of a camp. I don't want to get into the weeds too much, but so due diligence has been, but I really want to move through. I mean, we can stay on this one and talk about it for another 5 or 10 minutes with Lieutenant Apgar sitting there.
Just a real short point. I think the project that you want to do there at the museum is not a historic preservation project, because we're not spending that money on the museum itself. We're spending it on the house next door, and we're not doing it in a way that puts it back to its original form. We're turning it into whatever we are, but it's not going to be historically preserved. So I think we need to be careful about how we describe that.
we're using the language.
I'd like to see it like more original, but that wasn't the plan, so let's not say that it's historic preservation.
But that's the fund that allows for visitor centers and museum education centers. That's the title of the fund, historic preservation.
But it's not fixing the original historic building.
Right.
And it's not making the one that you're doing the work on historically correct. Yeah, it's going to help, might help people get in there, but that's not the issue. We're spending the money on the building.
I really want to move through the other items so we can discuss this, but can you please go ahead and work?
Sure, I'll cover the remaining two priorities, and I'll go through all the projects, and then we can get questions. And I think on some of these projects, I would like to get council feedback. But if the museum is not a priority, we're spending resources, time, and energy pursuing these. And if it's something that we should be focus our attention elsewhere, I think it's important to know that. I would like to know that. Spring Hill Lake Recreation Center, this will increase programmable space to allow for the expansion of after-school and summer programming, meet quality childcare needs, and add STEM activities. The center serves residents and non-residents groups seeking space rental. It is located at the Franklin Park, historically disadvantaged community. The city is requesting $750,000 for this project. The following project's more in-house project. It's a community center structural repairs. The wall is separating in the community center, so that gap is just getting wider. Where the city is requesting $750,000 to do structural remediation of the community center. So those are those three priorities that we received positive feedback for. from the senator's office. The other projects that we had submitted as priorities were the playground replacements. We had grouped all these various projects, 4 projects, into one category, and we had titled them playground replacements at Plateau Place, 44 Court Ridge, Northway Court, and the one at Greenbelt Elementary School, which I mentioned during our meeting with Dr. House just a few weeks ago. This one falls into the economic development initiatives. This will replace outdated playgrounds at these 4 sites. 3 of these are on city property. The 4th one is at Greenbelt Elementary, that it's been neglected, and the school district does not have the funds to keep up with repairs and replacements. The 5th priority is the Buddy Attic Lake bathroom replacement. That's for $500,000. That falls under a couple categories. It falls under the Economic Development Initiative, the Land Management Agency Local Projects and Research, and the National Recreation Preservation projects. So this will replace that set of bathrooms. These are prefab bathrooms. The place is deteriorating. Some of the metals rusted through. So it's work that we will eventually need to do. So those are how we group the priorities. The overall list, once we get through all the parks, we had looked at doing an addition to the clubhouse or expansion of the fireplace and picnic areas at Schramm Hills. Then we estimated that was up to $500,000. That would fall under the HUD Economic Development Initiatives. The multi-sport court at Franklin Park, this is a project that I think some of council members are familiar with. Franklin Park did submit a grant application to Kaboom for the multi-sport court. That grant application was rejected. This for us was another way of trying to get recreational facilities within Franklin Park area. So that's a project we consider. The new municipal building, that is on the list of projects. We haven't moved forward, but it's one of the things that we considered, and there is no relevant funding category for it, so it's not worth pursuing. The splash pad, this was a project that we had previously secured funding for through the POS money, and that project stalled over years, and that money had to go back to the POS pot of money because it had been so many years since we secured the funding, and the cost of it it's over $1 million. It's estimated at $1.6 million. This project was not included because it doesn't have a relevant funding category. And finally, we looked at the Greenbelt Middle School field restoration. That cost is between $1 and $1.5 million. That does have a funding category. That's the HUD Economic Development Initiatives. But there are some challenges with that. We need a little more work on the site control and the plans.
Well, I think that's a thoughtful list, Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, and I think we submit the list and they kind of like pick from the list to a certain extent, correct?
Yes and no. Some of the aides and the staff, they care about what's important to Greenbelt. If it's something that's important for Greenbelt and we make a case for it, they're going to support whatever we bring forward. There are some things that resonate better, that they're better fit within the funding category, or they are similar projects that the committee has funded previously. So similar to last year, we submitted a slew of things. We thought that the police radios would be funded. Who wouldn't want to fund public safety, police radio, next generation 911 radios? We thought it was a winner, but it didn't do well. The youth center roof replacement we had put in for $1 million and only got $250,000. Mm-hmm.
So I guess in terms of prioritization, to me, I think the 3 projects, there's obviously numerous things that need to do, as you pointed out. For example, the bathrooms, eventually we'll need to deal with that. But, of these 3, I would much rather see Spring Hill Lake as the first one. just because I think that expanding more capacity in that area, in that part of the city is more important, I think. And I appreciate Ms. Niesel's point as someone who I think has some fundraising experience, that we maybe need to figure out how we can push the museum to do some additional fundraising, and see if there's a way for other methods for that. So I think that it's a good list. I just think I would swap the first two in terms of which ones we're advocating for. And the structural repairs are another one that it's not the most exciting. It's not as exciting as either of the other projects. Although I think I disagree with Mr. Roberts. I believe actually a good portion of the museum would actually restore the outside of the building to its historic appearance. So I think it is actually a great deal of historic restoration, because it does not look historic the way the building is now. But I guess those would be my thoughts. Would be to just try to swap those. And the other thing you were talking about the having sort of the personal connection to this. This was actually something that came up in some of the sessions I went to at the National League of Cities, talking about, if you can bring people out to this was talking more about like transportation and infrastructure projects, because, if somebody's going to vote on it, then if they say, oh yeah, I remember that project, that was a neat project, I visited there and I got a nice tour. So I don't know if there's a way, and I guess I don't know if there's a way beyond just our senators and representative. I know Congressman Ivey, I think, is in Greenbelt a reasonable amount, but maybe showing this, but even identifying some of the people on the other committees, that even if they're not Maryland folks, maybe we can invite them out. They might not come, but I'm not sure there's a harm in issuing an invitation to say, hey, would you like to come tour Spring Hill Lake Rec Center and see what we would do with your money? So I think that came up several times that NLC actually is trying to tell the story and make the case.
I'm supportive of the proposals that you've put forward. I think that we can ask the museum for an update on their fundraising, and also taking into account the bond money. When would we need to ask for that extension?
I'll check with Carrie, but I understood that we needed to do something this year and next year to extend the funds.
Right. And the deadline for these submissions to Senator Van Hollen's office and Senator Alsobrooks did you say it was the 31st?
They moved their deadline to March 7th. So there's no particular reason. You heard from from Ethan, Congressman Ivey's representative. Their deadline for the same program is March 31st.
March 31st,
right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I think with the Congressman office, we have not submitted our list to the Congressman office. So any changes you would like to see, we can submit that to the Congressman.
So I appreciate the thought that's gone into this. My only comment is the rehabilitating that field over at Greenbelt Middle School. Yeah, that's something we've negotiated on with the schools for quite some time. If we want that to move forward, if we were to obtain one of these earmarks to do that, I think that would alleviate the stumbling block that has been there for such a long time. So I would actually move that up. Any other comments? Yes, Councilman.
Thank you. Yes, I would just ask that, as I've heard from a couple other colleagues, we put the Spring Hill Lake Recreation Center at the top of the list. I know that it is not technically ranked, but I would like to see that at the top for the specific reason which is presented in this memo. Currently, staff struggle to meet community needs due to limited space. That's kind of all I need to hear to know that needs to be the highest priority on my list.
Okay, any other comments? Hey, well, thank you for sharing.
I have
that.
my hand up.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Councilmember
No,
Hope.
it's okay. No, I think the restrooms at Buddy Eddick Park, I think we do need to, get the funding for this, because I read the additional notes that you provided to us, and we're having more and more visitors at this park. So I think it's important that we have appropriate facilities. Spring Hill Lake Rec Center, yes. With the museum, I would like to have a little bit more information, but I understand what you're saying. And I have a question, the splash pad. So what would be an appropriate funding category for the splash pad? Because I know I've been talking about the splash pad for a long time, and I think that is an amenity that especially for the little children that visit our pool, because right now they don't have any. The real small children don't have anywhere to go, right? Because we literally don't only have this mushroom. So I'm just wondering, what would be an appropriate funding category for this type of project?
Good question. From the list of funding categories under the guidelines from last year, and we have to go based on the guidelines from last year because the current year guidelines don't exist. So the assumption that, or what we've been advised by Congress and the Senator's office is follow last year's guideline, and fingers crossed is going to be the same. So a funding category does not exist for this type of recreational activity.
So basically, we would have to fund it ourselves.
Fund it ourselves. It would be a recreational project that fits under POS money.
Program Open Space. Mm-hmm.
Correct, Program Open Space. But that's not a
Pool deck for the next year, and using the
Hopefully
outdoor-
not a year.
Hopefully not, but
No, don't.
It's not going to be a year.
Don't get me in trouble, please.
Record, Mayor.
so
Okay. Well, I
but
just
we will
think
be
that's
working
something
on
that's
that,
important that
using.
we need to keep an eye on, and maybe, if we can, keep it
Oh, sure.
keep it on the list. Thank you.
Definitely, Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, one follow-up, because the playgrounds and the bathroom renovation were also ones that you presented at least to the Senator's office and didn't get as much of a sense of interest. Did you send the same 5 already to the Congressman's office, or no?
I believe Carrie has shared it with the legislative aide, that's the liaison.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So it was because again, it seems to be a little bit of a give and take of what are our priorities, but also what is the congressional office willing to put forward?
One of the advice that I got, I won't say his name because I don't know if you will want me to. His position was send us everything.
Yes.
Send us everything, because there may be in there negotiating or trying to put together the list, and there might be just an oddball project. The committee might say, well, we haven't done anything like this.
Have this much left over.
Right, or we have this much left over, and that project happens to just fall within that range. So his advice was just send them everything. But the Senator's office can take everything. The congressman cannot take everything. There's a cap on how many we can send.
The other thing that's good about having this list is these are our talking points. So when we're seeing our senators and congresspeople when they're in town and chatting them up about different things, oh, by the way, here we are in Buddy Attic Park, and there's the restroom over there. Yeah.
Need some repairs.
Seriously. So if we could move on, I think we've advised you. Do you need any additional guidance?
Not on the projects. I think there is the museum project that's been going on for years, and I kind of have feelings about it that it's it needs more work to get that project started, and the funding resources for the current funding environment that we're in, there aren't a lot of funding sources for it. So I think we need to figure something out.
Yeah, it kind of comes down to individuals, and they did a pretty thorough job of planning and launching the silent phase of the capital campaign, going after individual donations, and it is what it is right now. Yeah, Mr. Roberts.
On the Buddy Attic restrooms, is that 550,000? Is that for a complete replacement, or what is that?
It would be a prefab units for toilets. So we would
Is that
demolish.
in addition to what we
No,
have?
it would be demolishing what exists there. The concrete pad stays, and the new bathrooms will go on top.
But why? Because that building is not that old. What is it, 10 years old?
I don't know the
Why,
age of the building,
why would
but
we
it's-
tear down a building that's 10
there's-
years old?
There's rust. The doors are rusted. The frame has rust.
Well,
So-
repair it. Doesn't cost $500,000 to repair it. I figured we would be maintaining the building over time.
Well, you know,
It,
I'm sure
it
we're
doesn't
doing
make sense
everything we
to,
possibly can.
you know, tear something down after
So,
10 years.
uh,
That's not, to me, forget it. Well, I guess we'll talk about this another day, but I think I don't even think we paid 500,000 for that place.
Yeah, we can talk with Mr.
So,
Summerlin about this
but
offline.
I think this needs to come up again because I think it really goes to how we're maintaining our buildings because, thank you.
Thank you. No, thank you. Thank you very much. So at this time, we got to move on. And the next item on the agenda is item number 14, award of purchase replacement police vehicle. So included in council's packet is memorandum detailing the purchase of a replacement vehicle for the marked Unit 638. Staff recommends authorization to make the purchase of one Dodge Durango police package vehicle under the State of Maryland BPO, that's number 001B4600229, from Hertridge Fleet Services Incorporated for $40,927. The total cost, that $49,251, will be reimbursed by our insurance carrier, Legit, under the city's insurance policy. There's a little backstory there. It's real quick, but city manager is here, and you know, I always forget your rank. Is it Captain Apgar?
Lieutenant.
Oh, Lieutenant.
Lieutenant. I haven't made
that's
captain
close.
yet, but lieutenant.
Okay.
Yes. One day, hopefully, we'll see.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry to keep you waiting for so long. Kind of
No,
slipped my
no
mind.
problem at
I
all.
should-
No
yeah.
problem at all. Mayor Jordan, I appreciate everybody's time. My name is Lieutenant Michael Apgar, Administrative Services Commander for the Police Department. A little bit of backstory. Back on December 21st of last year, one of our cruisers was involved in a collision with another vehicle. At the time, the cruiser was parked and unoccupied when it was struck. The driver of the other vehicle wasn't injured, and also remained on scene for officers. Unfortunately, the cruiser was deemed a total loss. That being said, it is a 2023 Dodge Durango, and since it's so new, it qualifies for full replacement cost from under the insurance policy for the city, and totaling the $49,251. And that includes the removal of the old equipment, upfit of the old equipment, and replacement of any damaged equipment. So it covers pretty much everything. And we're just asking that council approve the city manager to allow us to purchase the vehicle.
Appreciate that. So when you say the existing equipment, like the laptop and any special equipment that was in the trunk, and just the way that's kind of set up.
Yes, all the emergency equipment, especially the light bar, the interior lights, the interior console, the mount for the computer.
Got one of those
pretty much-
CPR pads. What do you call those? Defibrillator.
I don't think that was in the car at the time.
Okay.
But anything that was damaged qualifies for replacement to make the vehicle whole, including the decals to get it remarked, everything.
Right. City Manager Summerlin, so if we make this purchase, we're anticipating that we'd be fully reimbursed. So how would that play out in the budget? And if we do this now, but we don't get the reimbursement until next year, will that impact the budget next year?
No, the reimbursement will happen within the year. So it from a financial management perspective, there's no net effect. We will be made whole with the full replacement cost of the vehicle and the expense to remove the equipment from the old vehicle and start on the new vehicle. And also included in the settlement letter from Legit, it includes the title fee for a new title for the new vehicle. So we're being made whole from this loss.
LEGIT stands for Local Government Insurance Trust. It's a cooperative kind of. Yeah. Council member.
Yeah, I'd like to move that council authorize the city manager to make the purchase of one Dodge Durango police package vehicle under the State of Maryland BPO number 001B4600229 from Hertich Fleet Services Incorporated for $40,927.
A second?
Second, but I think Don't we have to mention the $49,251? Isn't that the
Yes, yes,
total
we did.
amount?
Yeah. So that's that a friendly amendment?
That's a friendly amendment.
Seems pretty friendly to me. Discussion, I'll just say that, when we purchased we were able to catch up on purchasing with vehicles. We had deferred the replacement list on vehicles during COVID, and with the ARPA money, I believe we did in fact acquire about 20 or more vehicles. And at the time, there was a vigorous discussion about, are there some alternatives? And, we've talked quite a bit, with Green Aces and whatnot, and with council. It's certainly our aspiration that our vehicles are as energy efficient as possible, but they have to be practical. They have to be usable, or I'm groping for the word. They have to work. So while it is not council's desire to add vehicles to the fleet that are not more sustainable, hybrids or electric vehicles at this time, it's my understanding that there is no alternative to this type of a vehicle. Captain, or I'm sorry, Lieutenant.
Well, in speaking with the insurance company, I think it's they're just trying to replace the same vehicle with the same vehicle. We can't replace it with anything else. It was my understanding. So it was just easiest to get one of the same vehicles that was totaled.
Mr. Summerall, you can add.
Lieutenant said it well. This is not a new vehicle, so they're looking to make us whole, and they're going out of their way to make sure that every expense is covered. If it was a new vehicle, then that's a different conversation, because the city has made a commitment to electrify the fleet, and we have explore grant opportunities and make ready funding to explore how we can upgrade the electrical systems at the police station and at Public Works so that they can support level 3 charging for the police fleet and the Public Works fleet. But we're just simply not there.
Got a couple of comments from the public. Mr. Hartman?
Michael Hartman, 2 Court Garden Way. The mayor, as usual, anticipated what my comments would be, but I really would like to ask, just because this is a replacement, I'm wondering if that and the insurance company wanted just to do a simple replacement of the same vehicle. Was the insurance company asked if we could exchange that for an electric vehicle or a hybrid? Was that ever addressed with the insurance company, or are we just assuming that because they're going to give us the whole thing that we should take the money and run? Or did anyone ask the insurance company, or is there even an alternative that we could propose to the insurance company for them to consider for this vehicle replacement? Thank you.
Well, so perhaps we can ask the question. It's not really up to the insurance company. It's our decision what vehicle. So can staff possibly take a look to see if there's some alternative vehicle that would fit the need currently?
The vehicle market, there's 2 types of vehicles that we're introducing in our fleet. The Dodge Durangos, a lot of them were purchased during the COVID year, and that's where the vehicles that we could get our hands on. We could get, exactly. The preference from the senior team and Lieutenant, I don't know if you have an official opinion, but my preference is the Ford Explorer hybrids. Right now, those are showing good performance. They're spacious. They have good rapid acceleration. They're showing some durability. The Durangos is a powerful vehicle. It's a really nice vehicle. It doesn't perform as well from what I'm seeing as the Explorer hybrid. I'm sure Dodge is going to have different opinion on it. But our preference for vehicle is the Explorer hybrid because it allows for some on-battery run, and it has the anti-idling technology. The car just turns off and it turns itself on when it needs.
But it costs
power. It does cost more. Lieutenant, you want to jump in?
It does cost more. When I was looking at it, just to purchase a Ford Explorer gas model was about $5,000 more than the Dodge Durango was. I think they're coming in at about $45,000, and that's just for the gas. The hybrid is going to be a little bit more. I don't know exactly how much more. I didn't get a price on that.
These tariffs on aluminum and steel, that could add another 5 or 10. Mr. Orleans, you had a question or a comment.
Well, Mr. Orleans is coming up. I will have a conversation with Enterprise Fleet Management. I understand the mayor has had several, you've been outreached by Enterprise on various conferences. We submitted all of our vehicle information to them, and we'll get a proposal from them on electrification of our fleets. Why I bring the Enterprise into the conversation is that they have a purchasing power that we just don't have. They have access to vehicles that we can't get. So the Ford Explorers have been difficult to get for small municipalities because we just don't buy in bulk like larger police departments. Enterprise has better purchasing power. They seem to be able to get vehicles much easier because they're buying in such large quantities.
Something that works is expedient and practical for the city. It's something we should certainly consider. Mayor Pro Tem,
I can let
yeah.
let Mr. Orleans go first.
Mr. Orleans, please.
Greenbelt, either as council or city management, can never be accused of early adoption of alternative ideas. It's been requested of council to consider one electric police vehicle, I don't know, 15 years ago. Repeatedly, the police department and city management and much on council have resisted the idea. I don't know myself whether an electric police vehicle is appropriate or not. I would look forward to the day when they can all run on tap water. We won't have to worry about such things. However, this is an opportunity. I think I heard it said that LGIT can't mandate the purchase of a specific vehicle. This is an opportunity, one replacement vehicle, not 6 or 8 at a time, where understandably the police department might be leery of having to deal with 6 or 7 electric vehicles in their fleet. This is one vehicle. You know, one vehicle as an experiment, as something to measure against other vehicles might be a very good idea. And it might well be that the police department, the city of Greenbelt, could discover the flaws in whatever existing electric police vehicle. And I've read about them. They're anecdotally, there's good and there's bad. I don't know. But it might well be that we could discover the flaws in having such a vehicle. And in our next purchase or some other jurisdiction's next purchase, those flaws would have encouraged a better improvement to such electrically powered police vehicles.
Thank you so much. I think you heard me ask the city manager to check into it. Councilmember McKinney, or I'm sorry, Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, well, I think one of the challenges with that is we don't have any chargers at the police station yet. So we don't have anywhere on site at the police station to charge the vehicles yet. But so I guess this is an interesting question, and I guess I was thinking of it just as a replacement thing. But could we get the 49,000 from Legit and supplement it with other money to pay for the for at least the hybrid, or are those not? Or would the timing on that network because I feel like is that a possibility, or is this the best we can do right now?
Well, that's a good question. Obviously, it's above me, but I did check with Hertford Ford. And their production is pretty much on time, along with the Durangos. It's pretty much caught up.
Okay.
So let's take a look at it, and if it's feasible, and if it's I don't know, what, $5,000 more? Is that what you said? Or is there some amount of money, additional money that we're comfortable paying in these difficult times?
I think for there's 2 ways we can go about this. We can table the action item here and come back with you with an updated quote. I think the settlement, I will with the Legit, I think that in good faith we could accept the settlement with them, and that will clear them of the liability. They're willing to pay for us this amount, and we'll accept the settlement, and then we'll ask them to leave it up to us on the replacement. They're going to expect us to replace the vehicle soon and honor that commitment. And then we can come back to council with a quote that includes a hybrid model.
There's some way we could expedite that, because I just seem we've looked. I hear the comments, and we council in our public want us to be able to move in that direction, but we need the chargers, and the vehicles need to be available, and we need it now. And so to wrap it up, Mr. Roberts.
I was wondering if the insurance company is going to give us the same amount for all the extra, the stuff that we need to replace, and the radio and all the other accessories, if we're not doing in the same type of vehicle. Because obviously hooking those things up into a hybrid may be, more expensive than doing it on a Dodge Durango. I don't know. So would that come into it, or if we got a settlement, would they give us all that money, even though
I don't really have an answer for that. I could find out, but the quotes we got were for the installer, Frontline Mobile Tech, to install the existing equipment from one Dodge Durango into another Dodge Durango.
Okay, so that's what it is. Personally, I think we should just go ahead, get the Dodge Durango, get this done, instead of dragging it out, because we got bigger fish to fry, I think.
Councilmember.
Yes, I'm in agreement with Councilmember Roberts. I do think that time is of the essence when it comes to this particular purchase, given all the uncertainty around how much vehicles may be in the future. And especially that sounds like we've had rather protracted arguments with Legit in leading up to this decision. And I'm comfortable voting on this tonight.
Okay, well, it sounds like Mr. Roberts made a motion. It sounds as though you made
Motion on the
Oh,
table.
okay. I'd like to just go ahead and take a vote. Would you?
I think Ms. McKinney had her hand up.
Please, Ms. Pope, please go ahead.
Yes, I agree with Mr. Roberts and with Amy as well. I think we should just go ahead, get this exchange done, so we have a vehicle in our fleet that's probably needed because we're one down. So, and then, I understand we want to look in the future with alternatives, with especially with hybrids, and that's fine. But I think for now, let's just vote on this and make sure they get the vehicle as soon as possible, and then move forward with looking into other options when we purchase additional vehicles for the police department or other departments for that matter.
Okay, so with all due respect to any additional comments, let's go ahead and vote on this. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that does pass. I'm sorry. But we'll move on to the next topic, which is the
Well, I
topic.
think we were voting on, the proposal was to fund the vehicle, so I don't know
Yes.
you were apologizing. Yeah,
That
but,
was,
okay.
Mr.
Oh, Ms.
Harper was
Harvey,
giving
yeah.
me a look there. But in respect to Councilmember Niesel's need to you've got things to do at 10 o'clock.
Even
Okay, so that's why I would like to move on to item number 17, which is we pulled off the consent agenda, which is the 4th of July contract. So included in council's packet is a proposal for the innovative, I'd like to special order item number 17.
Okay. Instead of just doing 15
That
right
we
now?
special motion, yes, I'd like to do item number 17. I'd like to make a motion to special order item number 17 to the next item on the agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. So item number 17 is approval. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Okay. So item number 17, included in council's packet, is a proposal for the Innovative Pyrotechnic Concepts LLC, which is included with all the required permits. That's for the 4th of July. It includes permit staging and labor materials. Staff recommends council authorize the city manager to purchase the provision of a fireworks display, the 4th of July celebration to Innovative Pyrotechnic Concepts LLC for a total project cost of $20,000. So I pulled this off of, it was my intention to pull this off the agenda because people want to know what we have planned for the 4th of July. We're well aware of the fact that there are many residents that have animals, not just people that have animals, but our wildlife in the city of Greenbelt is very, very sensitive. Also, young children and heck, some adults. The noise, the bright lights, it's very scary. Many other people feel that the 4th of July fireworks are a tradition in Greenbelt and would be rather put off if we did not do fireworks. So, what do you have for us?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have what council is considering tonight is approval of the contract of a very similar show to last year. It might include additional shells because of the way the contractor has designed the programs, but is substantially similar to what it was last year. Last year's program was a bit more involved than the previous year because it added an additional feature of what the contractor called the faux finale, finale leading up to the finale. But the real issue, I think, it's how do we respond to the growing concern about the air contaminants that are released for the pyrotechnics, the noise pollution. How do we balance those interests with that of folks that have nostalgia, or it's a tradition. I think at this point it's a tradition not just for Greenbelt but throughout the country. So how do we balance those interests? The drone shows have become more popular throughout the country as the technologies become more accessible. And in the packet, we've included proposals from a company that does drone shows. The cost is, we consider it prohibited because we're looking at the numbers, right? And we try to make the numbers work. Going from 20,000 to 80, 100,000 is a substantial increase in the cost of the project. The other challenge that we see with the drone shows is that we're in restricted airspace. So once we get into permitting with the drone show, we wouldn't know what permit we could get, or whether we could have all drones. That's an area of work that I don't know, but that's something that has been shared to me as a concern from Public Works and our police department, that we are in restricted airspace. And if there is an interest in exploring that drone show, we have to do it with significant more time than how we go about planning our 4th of July festivity. Now it's March, so we've secured the date with the contractor back in late December and January, and now we're going through the procurement process. So as you can tell, it's 4 months out before the event. With a drone show, we would probably need a much further lead time. I expressed last year that we are going to be supportive of whatever direction council wants to take on this. I think it requires community conversations about how to go about integrating drones and other technologies like laser shows as part of the celebrations. It also begs the question, is there a better way to do 4th of July? Can communities get together and do joint events that will overall reduce the air pollutants and noise pollutants that go in the atmosphere?
I appreciate that. Let's see, any comments? Mr. Hartman, please.
Michael Hartman, 2 Court Garden Way. If I may, as a resident of the city, I do want to make 2 points on the police vehicle thing that I didn't get a chance to make. That is, it seems that your memos follow a standard process of explaining the situation. I'd like to see, as a part of a standard template, that you address the question of hybrids or electric vehicles when you present your arguments, because there was no mention of it in the letter, the memo that you prepared for the council. The other thing is that the expenses are tricky, that the maintenance and the gas more than make up, and the longevity of the car more than make up any reasonable increase in the price. Okay, now concerning the fireworks, first I want to thank Mr. Samaran for taking my comments seriously and actually looking into alternative ways of celebrating the 4th. This is the first time that something was actually done, and I've been bringing this up for a couple of years now. So I want to thank Mr. Samaran and his staff in actually doing something about it. The prices are the ones that was shown in the memo were very high, but that's not the only company that provides drone shows. So I would love to see an expanded list of maybe 2 or 3 different bids that would come in. But it is what it is. But I would like, with this contract, if you could do a couple of things. One, there are ways of making fireworks less damaging to the environment and to people, and that is by the use of fewer chemicals. In other words, like the propellant for the fireworks made from nitrogen rather than other elements that cause more damage to the environment. The lower amount of heavy metals, avoiding things like barium and strontium that are used to make the colors, using biodegradable materials for the fireworks themselves, using cardboard or paper instead of plastics or metals, and also there are things called low noise fireworks that are available. And so I would hope that the company, yeah, I know, it's 2 minutes and 55 seconds, thank you, would like to be considered when you're talking with this company, that see if they have these kinds of, to lower the environmental and the health damages that are caused by the fireworks that are more standard. So if you can do that, that would be good. It would be a good start, and maybe next year we could get more than one example of a drone show or a laser show for our celebrations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Council, any discussion?
Yes, can I have my hand up, but
yes,
I'm not
Ms.
seeing
Pope,
if
please.
anybody's in front of
Councilmember
me. So,
Yes,
so
please.
can
go
I
ahead.
or somebody else in front of me? I'm not sure.
No,
I can't
go
see
ahead,
it.
council member.
Okay, so I think we're talking about maybe getting together with another municipality and doing it in conjunction, but I think College Park's pretty much doing that already. I don't think they have had a firework display in a few years. And if I remember right, I was talking to Mayor Kabir last year, and we might want to see if they want to join in with us, because I think there's interest. I think we should just authorize the city manager to purchase the firework for July 4th, 2025, because it's a matter of time, I believe. But we should maybe explore other options for the future. But like City Manager Samaran says, that will take time, and he needs, there's a lot more information that we need if we would like to go ahead with something like that. But I think due to time constraints right now, I think we should go ahead and authorize the city manager to get the pay the $20,000 for the 4th of July celebration for this year.
Okay, that sounds like a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Councilmember Niesel seconded. Mayor Pro Tem?
I'm just curious, how much back and forth do we have with the vendor about the details of the show? Like, does Public Works have a lot of discussions about it, or is it more about I'm just wondering about the feasibility, because I like Mr. Hartman's idea, because it seems like if there's a range of fireworks that are available and within the $20,000, can we try to work with them to choose the ones that are the least environmentally harmful and the least noise polluting as part of the process of generating that slow? Does that run of show, does that seem feasible to you?
I think there are two pieces to that. I think the relationship, there's a good working relationship between Public Works and the vendor. We were among the first contract. So there's a special relationship there, and the history. special relationship in the sense that, we were
You've worked with them for a long time.
we've been with them for a long time. I look at the cost, and it's a great price. I don't think we can beat this price. There's the second element of the way we've gone about designing the show is, last year I was privy to being part of designing the show. So the contractor asked, well, what do you want this year? Like, what do you want? Do you want more bells? What colors? And so it seems to be very open about what kind of show and what kind of presentation we want to have. And last year we added the faux finale by swapping out certain shells. So I think we have that level of communication that we can talk about the design of the show and the timing of the show. That gives me reason to think that we could get to the specs of like, okay, well, what actual product are we using? Are the red shells consist of more harmful chemicals than the sparkles or other chemicals? I think that we could have that conversation. I think we could also have a conversation about what if the number of shells are closely correlated with the number of pollutants that put in the air, could we reduce 10% of the shells? And that cuts 10% of the pollutants.
It's a thought.
Mhm. So it does affect the show.
It does. But I think that seems like a potentially reasonable compromise. And then because again, this has come up for a few years. So if we need to start, if in order to do the drones, if we need to start planning in, November or December, maybe we just need to, start planning sooner next year for 2026.
I already have the budget for special events for next year in the budget. So it happens significantly prior. So in less than 2 weeks time, I will be presenting a budget for council for next year. And it happens that our fiscal year begins July 1. This is
fireworks is, yeah.
Yes. So obviously council has a lot of authority. We could change midstream at any point, but securing a contractor and going through all the procedure things is challenging. So we need as much time as we can get to properly planned. So we could look at reducing the number of shells. I think it will be a quite a unique conversation with the contractor, because usually it's, give me more for less, give me more shells. That's what the spectacle is.
Well, but I think it's an interesting thing to think about, because it's not necessarily it's about not necessarily less but different, right? Not saying necessarily we want to get less than our money's worth, but if we can produce an enjoyable show, but by selectively choosing lower impact fireworks.
Let's see, Councilmember McKinney, and I have seen Ms. Rosenthal's hand as well. Please, Councilmember.
If we are continuing to do additional research, on the drone option, I'd also just like to add to that research to not only look at the environmental impact, and I know you probably already are, but the safety impact as it comes to, I know that there was an event, I think it happened in Florida, where there was a drone fireworks show and a child was significantly injured. And so I want to make sure that we have whatever vendor you are looking at, their safety record, as well as what do they do to help prevent that. And if there are any restrictions when it comes to where the crowd is located versus where they need to do that for the drones, because where we do ours is pretty tight. So I don't know if there's anything that needs to be taken into account if we were to move to that type of option.
Those are excellent points, and we do safety assessments at all of these events. Last year, just as an example, we had to remove private vehicles from accessing the stage because we have no control of the vehicles and the operators of the vehicles, and so we instituted a chauffeur type model where we're ushering equipment and people, and it didn't go so well with the band players and some of the participants because they're used to being able to drive their pickup trucks and vehicles to drop off their equipment. It's important. Yeah. It's important to bring the thing. So yes, we do look at those things. This pyrotechnic team has a great safety track record. For all the years that they've been serving us, we haven't had those issues. I think the drone model, I don't have much experience with it, and I think that it's still a growing industry. But yeah, and I don't know if there is good safety. What's the historical, right? What with drones, you know. We know from fireworks, we know how far we got to be. Yeah, that's been tried and tested many times over.
Yeah, and I had not really thought too much about this issue about the airspace, the restricted airspace, and how that might impact some technologies, particularly laser shows with aircrafts coming over so frequently over Greenbelt. There's certainly a lot to think about and a lot to talk about in putting on a 4th of July celebration. So, Ms. Rosenthal, are you there?
Yes, Mayor, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great, I've set my timer. So yeah, I'm not even sure if Mr. Hartman remembers, but last year he actually caught about 4 different companies, and they all were cost prohibitive. So I appreciate Mr. Samaran has tried again, and hopefully in the future, the cost of drones will come down, just like the cost of, calculators came down and cell phones came down. But also, you would think there might be a growing industry in green fireworks. So it may be interesting to see if there are companies that pride themselves in greener fireworks. One thing immediately, I think that it's a separate firework, the one that goes boom. It's not necessarily built into the red and the green. So you could ask the company, we don't want any of the booms. Even though I remember Councilwoman Davis, that was her favorite thing, was the boom. But it's not the dog's favorite things. It's not the baby's favorite. So you could even this year just say, we don't want any booms. And finally, when we have the drum circle earlier in the afternoon, there's been a habit that sometimes the Cameroonian community has come down and joined the drummers, but not always. But I don't think anybody's actually reached out to that community to say, we would like you to be a part of our 4th of July celebration. They come, in Cameroonian costume. They bring a special kind of a xylophone. It's like an enormous, like 6 or 12 foot long xylophone. And there might be other communities that have special ways that they celebrate the 4th of July, like other communities celebrate Mardi Gras. So Mr. Samaran, if there's a way of reaching out to the Cameroonian community, they may even pray in the community center. Or it could be that the church that meets in the old post office has ties to the Cameroonian community. It's another festive thing, with the dancing, the music. And I think that just would be another, free way of embellishing our 4th of July and making it more multicultural. So those are some of my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, over the years, I've developed a pretty good rapport with the Cameroonian group that comes and is there at Buddy Attic Park at the same time. It's a regional gathering, so folks from Delaware and New Jersey and Virginia are there, and there's some a couple of social groups that are connected. It's Cameroonian, the Restoration Center, I guess if you had to characterize things, a lot of folks of Nigerian descent, so it's a little different. But it's their regional gap. I hate to say that they're not there to celebrate the 4th of July, but they're having a wonderful sort of reunion get together, and it's just a little bit of a coincidence that it's always on 4th of July weekend. But I can see if I can reach out to them. I know that they are welcome. Sometimes they feel like coming down, and other times they don't. But it's one of the really great things about our festival, the fact that they are there and we're all sort of celebrating together.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We welcome any of those connections you can make for us. We have a couple teams that work on the 4th of July. The recreations team leads the programming for the event, and Public Works takes care of the ground and the fireworks. And obviously, there's some collaboration between everybody. But we have not had our kickoff meeting for the activities. That includes the music, the food trucks, and all the other things that will be put together for the programming for the 4th of July. So, but I imagine that we'll be doing that in the coming weeks.
Well, thank you. Well, I'm glad we have this discussion. I'm glad that I pulled this off the agenda because people want to talk and be heard.
And for some background material, what is the guidelines for us to put things on on the consent agenda is they're administrative in nature. They exceed the $10,000 city manager's limit, but are below the 3-bid limit of the 30,000. So that's our general guideline of what makes it on the consent agenda.
Okay. Is there any further discussion, or do we don't? This is on the consent agenda, so
No, we need to vote on it.
So, and there was a motion that was seconded by Ms. Pope, I think. Oh, Ms. Nisa, okay.
Yes.
Okay. Well, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? The motion passes. Thank you so much. Yes, you got to go. Yeah, thank you, council member. Okay, council activities.
No, we got the Pepco streetlight.
Oh, my. Pepco streetlight. It's almost number 15. I think I have an old agenda or something. Okay, Councilmember McKinney requested that this item be included on the in the agenda discussion and action. She proposes that the city dispute its responsibility for streetlights on state roads, including State Highway 193. City Manager Summerone, can you provide a little background on this dialogue? Because I know there's been correspondence and there's been some formal action, and also over the past week, I've had a chance to talk with mayors from other jurisdictions. So we are not alone in this proposal about the streetlights and state highways. So can you give us a little context, please?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for some background on that. Taking a step even further, several months ago, the PEPCO completed its survey of the streetlights and all the municipalities that PEPCO is serving. We signed an agreement of what lights we accepted and which ones we rejected. Just 2 weeks ago, SHA rejected taking responsibility for the streetlights that are on state roads, which we were surprised because we haven't been paying for any of those lights as of yet. We haven't been billed for them, nor were we informed that they were our responsibility. But now SHA wants to push this responsibility onto the municipalities. They cited the guidelines that were recently adopted, which municipalities did not have a role in crafting the lighting design and guidelines for SHA. So we don't know how we could be given responsibility for something that we haven't had a role in designing, constructing, and maintaining previously. And now SHA is pushing that responsibility. Now I get where SHA is coming from. The state budget is struggling. SHA is financially struggling. Can they take on what is thousands of lights in the PEPCO territory? So it's really coming down to a financial issue. It's going to put a financial strain on SHA, but it's also going to put a financial strain on the municipalities.
Right.
In some municipalities, may constitute a large number of their lights. I spoke with Berwyn Heights. It's almost a third of their lights. It's not a third of our lights, but it's something that we haven't been responsible for, and now just without any it's interesting the mayor used dialogue. Well, without much dialogue, it's not, the SHA is proposing that it becomes our responsibility. So I think we perhaps need to have a conversation with SHA. I received an email from PEPCO that SHA will be reaching out to us about this matter. I look forward to the correspondence. But I thought that it was important for us to take the position that we've taken, because how can we assume responsibility for something that hasn't been our responsibility? And I have no indication that council would want to accept this responsibility either.
I do think it's a larger issue. So I think the same proposal that's being foisted, I'm trying to say that politely, foisted upon us is also a challenge for many of our sister municipalities, both in Prince George's County and Montgomery County. So two things. I think there was a bill that our delegation actually put in that had to do with maintaining the sidewalks on state highways this year. So I think they might be interested, or likely would be interested in knowing about this proposal, and because somehow this idea of us maintaining the streetlights might have some connection somewhere to us maintaining the sidewalks after they put them in. That's number one. Number two, I think clearly you've already taken some action. What I think we should actually work with our sister municipalities and network a little bit. And I think if we all say it at the same time, no, this is ridiculous, we don't want to do this, I think it will have just more power than us doing it individually.
And I guess the one additional thing I would say is, if I recall correctly, at some point we need to have a follow-up with SHA, because the last time we talked to them, there was another issue on the table where we had to wait 18 months or something like that for them to address issues that we raised. And so they have some type of timeline for addressing these things. So if this may be another priority and reason to try to move forward with scheduling an additional update with them.
Yeah, I strongly agree with you. Staff has been working to try and schedule a session with them, because there's several issues we need to talk with them about. And most recently I heard April, probably. You know, the budget presentation is coming up so soon, so we have to fit it in there. But the reason for April is more so that's when they said they could do it. Mr. Roberts and then Councilmember Pompey.
Does the state highway actually have the authority to change a policy like that? Sounds to me like that would require state legislation, not an order from SHA.
So I think your question builds on what the mayor is saying, that there's existing legislation that puts the responsibility of sidewalk maintenance onto the municipalities, and I think that they may be using that. However, I've asked for in writing, where does SHA has the authority to delegate that responsibility to the municipalities? And the only document that they've provided is the SHA MDOT lighting design and guidelines. And there's a component of it that municipalities should be consulted on the design and construction and maintenance of streetlights. But it does not state that we are responsible for the maintenance of it. It says we should be consulted.
Yeah, I don't think they have the authority to do what they're doing.
I don't think so
if
either.
I were you and they sent me a bill, I would not pay it. And I would send it to our state legislators and tell them to pay it.
Councilmember Pompey.
To both yours and Mr. Roberts' point, would it be appropriate for us to send a letter to our state legislators alerting them to this and to our opposition to it? Because, I mean, I think they need to know that this is happening and that we're opposed to it, and because it does sound like it's a state legislative issue, and this is not something they should be able to do. Just decide that we're responsible all of a sudden.
Yeah, I'm not sure of the mechanics of how, whether it would be SHA or it might be a decision of the Board of Public Works somehow. Just, but yes, let's transmit a letter.
I think it, but so I'm not sure there's actually a motion on the table if you want.
I move that we draft a letter and try to coordinate with our municipal partners to also sign on that letter, so that it would be sent to our delegation, our state delegation.
We'll draft the letters to SHA. I'll circulate it with, the 4 cities are united on this. The 4 cities, we sent a similar email to PEPCO as I shared with council. Hyattsville has also expressed opposition to that. I did not hear from Tracy if they had outright rejected the lights.
Upper Marlboro has received a similar letter, and they had a similar reaction. So they are definitely opposed to this and have been dealing with it. They're supposed to be meeting with SHA at some point.
I understood that SHA had requested to meet with municipalities. I didn't get an invitation to a meeting. Maybe we're.
So I'm going to second the motion just to be official about it because, yeah.
Okay, let's go ahead and take a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Council activities.
Yeah. Do this quick.
Didn't have a chance to add a couple of things, but please go ahead and we'll.
Yeah, no, I think the things, there's a few, there's the things that you were at with other council members that are on here, but there may be other things that you need to add later. I think the Greenbelt Youth Musical was called out earlier by Mr. Hartman. I agree, it was very good, and it looks like Miss Niesel went to a different showing than I did, and I think Miss Pompey, you did make it. Oh, you didn't end up making it. We talked about it, but I'm not.
It's sold out.
Yeah, so
Sold out.
I actually got mine ahead like a week or two ago because no, actually even before I left on my trip I made sure I got my ticket so that I would have it because I missed out last time. I think some other things. I think the trainer session that we did was very well attended here in the council chambers. Mr. Salmaron I think mentioned that I think we were chatting earlier, but we had I think 30 or 35 people that attended that.
We had 35
Yeah,
people,
yeah.
and it's not in this week's the weekly report because it's we close our weekly report on a Thursday, and this happened on Saturday. So I get to take credit for it at the next council meeting. Or
I think NLC was very interesting. A number of interesting sessions. I have some things to share later at some later point about that.
Kind of report out on some of the activities at the next council meeting. If
Yeah.
you can block out, I don't know, 15 minutes, 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah, I think I'll just have a few notes that we could do at a work session. I don't know that it needs to be. Yeah, but
Okay.
yeah. Anybody else? Any other comments?
Well, I also attended the Maryland Mayors Association. We had our annual meeting in Annapolis on Thursday and Friday, and had a chance to visit the governor in his home there next to the State House. So we talked about a lot of issues and talked about MML's legislative priorities. So when we talk about some of the things that NLC has going, we can talk about MML and MMA as well. And I don't know. I think the two of us, we went to see the Greenbelt Orchestra perform the Black History Month performance.
Oh,
You
that
were
was
there.
amazing.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
You were there? Yeah, that's right.
I mean,
They
it's
actually-
like the first time some of those pieces had been
Yeah.
performed before an audience. It was pretty incredible.
Yeah, they actually commissioned a piece of music, and the composer, they were able to talk with the composer by video, by Zoom, and he explained some of what he was doing. So that's pretty much it. I think we have a comment from, you need to go to the microphone there.
My name is Andrew Summers. I live at 1B Westway behind the museum. Thank you for recognizing me. I was told to actually wait until item 20, but I see people fading fast, and so I may have jumped the gun a little bit. I'm not actually speaking to what you're talking about now, but I do want to talk about a public safety issue and something about the Planning Advisory Board meeting from February. Is this an okay time to do it?
Generally speaking, we would do that at the beginning of the meeting with petitions and requests. I believe at the next council meeting, we are prepared with an agenda item to talk about WMATA's proposal. It's not something that Greenbelt, the city council, had actually written a letter opposing or not really opposing the idea of moving the bus routes, the M20 and the M21.
I'll be happy to come back and talk about it, but it would be great if I could just have 2 minutes to put something on your radar, maybe a brief synopsis of the meeting that I believe didn't you come, Councilmember McKinney? I thought so,
Advisory
and
Planning
also
Board
obviously the
meeting,
city
yeah.
manager was there.
As that council's will, or should we, because we are going to deal with this at the next meeting, but is it?
I think 2 minutes, very briefly. I'm okay with it.
2
with just
minutes,
2
really
minutes.
briefly.
Waited the whole meeting. So
Yeah.
So last July, City Council staff sent a memo on your behalf to WMATA saying we're not going to oppose. That's essentially the rerouting of the buses that currently go up Southway, turn down Ridge, and then turn left on Westway. WMATA wants the bus to go straight down Crescent and hang a left on Westway. You probably remember this, I'm not sure, but I was surprised that City Council chose not to oppose it because before the comments were due to WMATA, the city actually received somewhere about a dozen letters of opposition that I don't think that you were ever able to see. And Ms. Ferrer and Ms. Ruby both said that none of those comments were taken into account when you did choose to not oppose the change in the route. I want to say, and I will say again at the next meeting, that I think this is a serious public safety risk because of the hill on Westway, the pedestrian cross, and we could talk about that later. I'd invite you to talk to the city manager and your fellow council members about this, but the planning board had the biggest turnout it has ever had in its history and had something like 20 different people speak in opposition. And I believe that many of them will come once it's on the agenda. And I didn't know that it was on the agenda at the next meeting, so I appreciate you bringing that up.
Thank you. We are, if I could say so, we're very aware of the opposition. I ride the bus myself, so I'm very aware of the routes. And I thought in the letter, we did not say that we supported the change. I'm not sure we didn't say that
You
we
just said you
opposed it.
didn't object in the letter.
But, I know a lot of people on the street and appreciate the concerns, so.
One issue that didn't come up in the letter, I'll just share with you because finances were brought up by Mr. Roberts and others, is that it became clear at the board meeting that the city would be expected to pay for the construction of the new bus stops. And both Ms. Ferrer and the members of the advisory board said, the way to, essentially object after the fact, after saying that we don't have an opposition, is to just say, we're not going to, use our ARPA money to build new bus stops, new pads, and things like that, if that was the will of the council. But it was news to me that the city would be expected, not unlike SHA, foisting the funding for the lighting on the municipality. WMATA seems to be trying to do the same with this rerouting.
Yeah, the city, we're very proud of our bus stops. So we have this unique wooden sort of rustic design. So while we could actually use the generic one that WMATA uses, we prefer our own. Let me just say that WMATA's proposal, even if it is approved, it's not etched in stone, and it's actually pretty far off. So we still have an opportunity to push back.
Well, I'll look forward to speaking to it more next month. Thank you for hearing me out. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. So at this time, if we can sit here for a little while longer.
Move to adjourn.
We have
one
one
more?
item that we have
What do
one
we have?
item that we need to
Yes, please.
address.
Sorry.
Yeah, I think we pulled it to be addressed later, so we pulled it off the agenda entirely. So pulled it, yeah.
We can talk about it for a while then.
No, that,
Hey, oh, you do? Yeah, please.
The legislation that you passed tonight will have to be rescinded because it wasn't properly advertised.
Oh, okay, writing a letter, okay.
the
charter amendment.
Oh, okay, well, with that, we'll bring it up again at the next meeting. Do we need to vote to rescind it?
We have to vote to rescind it.
Okay, and that was,
Introduce it, and then I have to advertise for a public hearing, and then go to
okay. So, would someone like to make a motion that we rescind the action that we authorized? In terms of the charter?
Okay, so I move to rescind the resolution of charter amendment resolution of the Council of the City of Greenbelt to amend Section 4, creation, qualifications, compensation of the city charter to raise the compensation of the council.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, any discussion? Madam Clerk, can you call the roll, please?
Yes.
Yes.
Ms. Pope?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, hey, thank you so much. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
That was the item. I apologize for the oversight.
It's okay. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion carries.